Chapter 1064. Brennan was speechless. When she came out, Bei-Yunj saw Brennan's depressed expression and raised her eyebrows subconsciously. "Mr. Brennan, if there's no problem, I'll go back first," Bei-Yunj said. Brennan forced a smile. "Goodbye, Miss Pei." Bei-Yunj raised her eyebrows and looked at Hoshido thoughtfully. In the car, Bei-Yunj sent a message to Brennan before she found out what Hoshido had done. "Brother, you don't like me filming advertisements?" Bei-Yunj curled her lips and asked subconsciously. Actually, Bei-Yunj had never liked to appear in public. In her previous life, other than the necessary award ceremonies, she would occasionally appear and never pay attention to anything else. "Brennan's image is not suitable for you." The Hua family had always taught the men in the family to respect women. If Bei-Yunj really liked filming, Hoshido would respect her opinion. However, when Hoshido was present and saw the other men at the filming venue staring straight at his little girl, he could not help but do so. He even had the urge to teach Brennan a lesson. After living for more than 20 years, Hoshido did not expect himself to have such a strange time. "Brother, you don't like it?" Bei-Yunj's eyes were filled with pity. Hoshido glanced at her, and knew that Bei-Yunj still did not know that her original copy was in his hands. Hoshido's eyes darkened when he thought of the scene by the pool. Even his fingertips moved unnaturally, and the veins on the back of his hand were faintly discernible. Then suddenly Bei-Yunj's call broke the atmosphere. "Teacher, when did you go to Continent K?" After Vic found out about the competition venue, he immediately called his god of fortune to ask about it. "These 2 days." Bei-Yunj's tone did not indicate whether she was in a good mood. Vic was still uneasy. Then Mr. Chin's injury. "Is it all right?" Bei-Yunj chuckled, but her voice was cold. "He needs 3 operations and will need at least 3 months of treatment. Does Mr. Vic think it's all right?" Vic. Sure enough, he still provoked her. Bei-Yunj's tone was indifferent. "Right now, I want to know how the competition will proceed." Qin Lang viewed the competition as more important than his life. "Mr. Qin, this was a sudden accident, and it was also caused by our organizers, so I have no opinion on who you change," Vic immediately said. Bei-Yunj thought of something. "Is there a vice-captain of RS who didn't come? Isn't Mr. Qin's vice-captain hospitalized? He probably can't replace Mr. Qin." Bei-Yunj. "Why is this RS team full of sick people?" Suddenly Vic hinted again. "Actually, it's fine even if you're not from the original team." Bei-Yunj thought that it was a good idea. "You want me to poach people from other teams?" "I didn't make you lose your dignity," Vic immediately said. "Can't you?" Bei-Yunj. After hanging up the phone, Bei-Yunj glanced at the man who was reading a book beside her. Seeing that he did not say a word, she thought that Hoshido was still ignoring her because of what she said. "Brother?" Bei-Yunj called out. The man did not look up at her. "What's wrong?" Bei-Yunj. Bei-Yunj did not expect that the first thing that could make her so unhappy would be a book. Suddenly, Bei-Yunj placed one hand on a certain someone's book and looked at Hoshido with curved eyes. P.S. Chapter 1065. "Brother, I think I lost my hair tie." Hoshido glanced at the smiling little girl, as if he was looking at a cat that wanted to play with him. Not long after, the man reached out and took out a new hair tie. Bei-Yunj often dropped this thing, so Hoshido often prepared 2 or 3 in the car. "Sit over here." Hoshido casually placed the book on his lap. When Bei-Yunj came closer, he noticed that the little girl did not dare to get too close. He sneered and his playful tone was a little muddled. "Why? Are you afraid now?" Before Bei-Yunj could speak, the man suddenly seemed to be very close to her. His magnetic and smiling voice sounded in her ear, tickling her ear. "Turn around." Her back was facing the man. Before she could react, the man bit the hair tie gently and his gaze landed on her. Then his slender and well-defined fingers stroked her slightly curly long hair. His actions were surprisingly gentle. Bei-Yunj paused. For a moment, she did not expect the man to tie her hair. The man rolled up his sleeves elegantly, revealing a small section of his cold and fair wrist. The scene of him tying the little girl's hair with his eyes lowered was even more pleasing to the eye. It was obviously Hoshida's first time tying a ponytail for the little girl. It was a little low, but the effect was not bad. After he was done, Bei Yunj was about to speak when the man suddenly reached out and gently pinched the back of her neck. His low and hoarse voice was unbelievably sexy. "It's time to behave, Yunyun." Bei Yunj's ears inexplicably heated up. When the little girl lowered her head just now, her collar was loose. From behind, he could clearly see the little girl's clear collarbone in front of her and the scenery below her fair neck. However, Hoshidu quickly avoided the places that he should not look at. The man's eyes were half hidden. For the time being, he did not want to scare this child. After returning, Bei Yunj returned to her bedroom because of a phone call. However, she did not notice that Hoshidu had gone back to take a cold shower first. In the study room, Master Du, Cui Hingchuan has come to Continent K. "We've confirmed that it was indeed Director Donner who gave him the news," Zhou Yu said. "Since we're already here, let's get ready to close the net." Hoshidu wiped his wrist and said casually, but his eyes were filled with danger. However, in the bedroom, Bei Yunj could not help but frown when she heard Vic say that Qin Lang insisted on competing. Qin Lang rested for 7 days. If he forced himself to endure, he could indeed compete with injuries, but the result was not optimistic. Whether it was the competition or the injuries. "Are you really not going to replace Sai?" Vic asked cautiously. Bei Yunj sneered. "I'm not a professional player." "Then you plan to let Mr. Qin participate in the competition? In Continent K, it's not that easy to poach," Vic immediately said in disbelief. Bei Yunj hung up after saying that. "I'll think of another way." But what Vic didn't expect was, for some reason, Bei Yunj made another call. "Hello. Coach, how come you have time to call me?" The captain of the HK Esports Club under EG Corporation could not help but be excited. Bei Yunj thought for a moment. "I have something to ask you." "What is it?" "Bei Yunj, are you interested in joining the RS team?" The HK captain. "Does the boss know that you're so crazy to poach people?" The next day, Continent K Academy. Director Zhou. Donner never thought that this matter would actually make Zhou Yu come over. "After being doted on by the big shots, I've gone wild. /book/83224/. Chapter 1066. How did YG get involved with that person? Donner's expression did not look too good, but he did not dare to offend Zhou Yu. /36649/. Do you remember what I just said to the director? Zhou Yu smiled politely, but the emotions in his eyes sent chills down one's spine. After Donner came back to his senses, he nodded with some lingering fear. "Director Zhou, I understand. That's good." Zhou Yu nodded. However, just as Donner heaved a sigh of relief, Zhou Yu handed him a very familiar agreement. "Oh right, there's another agreement that you need to sign." After Donner opened it, his expression was particularly ugly. This was YG's confidentiality agreement. But in front of Zhou Yu, he could only slowly pick up the agreement with trembling hands and sign it. After passing it to Zhou Yu, he heard him laugh. "Thank you for your cooperation, Mr. Donner. But there's another piece of news that you should receive very soon. This is Sir's return gift to you." With that said, Zhou Yu left very quickly. Not long after Donner guessed, he received a notice and his face instantly turned pale. He had been unanimously decided by the school board to remove him from the position of director. Donner's pupils constricted violently as if all the strength in his body had been drained. His eyes were unfocused as he sat there paralyzed. How could this be? Could it be that person who did it? Donner recalled Zhou Yu's return gift and his expression became even more fearful. His face turned ashen again. That person must have found out. He had already leaked YG's matter. Donner fell into endless regret and pain. Why did he have to provoke YG in the first place? Just as they arrived at the place where Nancy had agreed to meet, Bei Yunj heard Nancy say in puzzlement, "That's strange. I haven't even started to deal with him. Why has Donner been removed from his position?" Bei Yunj raised his eyebrows. "What do you mean by removed?" Nancy turned around and saw Bei Yunj. He explained. "Early this morning, this matter was spread everywhere. They said that Donner was suddenly removed from his position by the school board of K Continent Academy today, and that the vice director will be promoted. It's really retribution." Nancy sighed and felt that she didn't have to do anything. Baiyunji's eyes darkened. She suddenly remembered that this morning, Zhou Yu had hurriedly avoided her and left with a document. Nancy's voice interrupted Baiyunji's thoughts. Gu'er, I heard from Shangyan that you don't want the doctor from Zhongshenglin. Why don't you try the one I found? Baiyunji saw Nancy take out a folder. When she picked it up and opened it, the photos inside were also very familiar. Luo squinted. Baiyunji's eyelids twitched, and she immediately threw the documents back onto the table. No need. Why did you refuse? This young man was very accomplished in medicine. Even that old man Stephen had praised him. Besides, this young man really likes you. He begged me for a long time. Baiyunji. Why didn't she know about this? Get her away from me. I don't want to cause trouble for myself. Baiyunji glanced at Nancy, still cold and emotionless. Nancy. He didn't know what that young man was thinking. He actually liked his disciple. When he talked about Gu'er, he looked like a nervous little boy. But he had heard from Stephen that Wuxia had done a lot of research on bipolar disorder. Maybe he had a way to cure Baiyunji. Nancy laughed. That young man won't let it go. I think he's very fanatical about you. Baiyunji. Please inform the administrator backstage if you need help. Chapter 1067. Baiyunji's eyelids twitched. There was no need for that. By the way, Gu'er, did anyone look for you in the past 2 days? Nancy seemed to have thought about it for a long time before he finally asked. What's wrong? Baiyunji looked up at him. Nancy's eyebrows were almost twisted into a fried dough twist, but after a while he sighed. It's the Confederation's Laboratory 191. Baiyunji had some impression of this laboratory. Nancy had mentioned it to her before. The level of the laboratory in Continent K could overlook the entire world. And the Confederation's Laboratory 191 was considered the leader of the dragons in Continent K. Are they planning to look for me? Baiyunji asked. The influence of Confederation 191 in Continent K is not to be underestimated. Logically speaking, as long as you enter Continent K, it's impossible for them not to know. Even if they find you at the airport, the chances of them finding you are very high. Nancy was also puzzled. Baiyunji said, I took a private plane here. Nancy was speechless. He had really underestimated the power of money. Master, you don't want me to enter Confederation 191? Baiyunji looked at Nancy. In Baiyunji's opinion, Nancy had a lot of unknown past. The first time she saw him, Nancy leaned against the roadside in ragged clothes and did not care about trifles. Baiyunji mistook him for a beggar. But in Country R, the elegant and warm decorations of the Backton Manor did not seem like Nancy's style. Nancy's eyes were cold and his tone was sarcastic. That dark and ugly place. Everyone's heart is dirty. Baiyunji looked at him for a while. She just smiled silently. Don't worry, I won't go. Nancy still couldn't help but test her. Really? Actually, Confederation 191 has a lot of experimental data that hasn't been exposed. It's very beneficial for you. As expected. Baiyunji's hand stopped and she suddenly looked up and asked, Then can I? Nancy's eyelids twitched. He instantly knew what she was going to do. You can't. Baiyunji raised her eyebrows lazily, a little unhappy. Nancy was afraid that Baiyunji would do something crazy, so she said, Don't do anything stupid. I don't want to see you being hunted down by the Confederate 191 in a few days. Baiyunji raised her eyebrows. However, I remember that they have a training camp that is open to everyone. As long as you enter the final round of the training competition, you will have the opportunity to enter their library. Nancy's eyes suddenly turned sneaky. The data of the Confederation 191 from a few years ago can all be accessed through the administrator's mainframe. When the time comes, you can make as much as you want. What about the past few years? Baiyunji asked. In the past few years, they've been researching something. If not for a few years ago, there was still Gurujo, sure? Nancy paused and quickly said, In the past few years, Confederation 191 has been going downhill. There's nothing to see. But Confederation 191 has a very deep foundation. I'll teach you how to get their documents. Nancy had been analyzing the internal situation of Confederation 191 with her the entire morning. Bei Yunj also more or less knew about the relationship between Nancy and Confederation 191. Nancy used to be an external mentor of Confederation 191, but later on, because of some things, her relationship with Confederation 191 completely collapsed. At noon, Nancy had just taken Bei Yunj to eat when she suddenly received another call. "Whose is it? Your brother's?" Nancy said faintly. "No," Bei Yunj said. "Chin, something happened to my third brother." Chapter 1068. Bei Yunj laughed, but her eyes were unreadable. She cut the foie gras slowly. "I'll fight for him. It's useless even if I win." According to the standard procedure, Bei Yunj was not a member of Qin Lang's club, and she did not sign up for the competition. Vic could agree to let her participate, but the competition was for the public to see. "Then you're just going to watch?" Nancy did not believe that Bei Yunj would do this. Bei Yunj looked at him and smiled. "I'll go out in the next few days." "What? But the registration for Confederation 191 is the day after tomorrow. If you miss it, you'll have to wait another year." Nancy frowned. This competition could not be signed up by others. "Then we'll talk about it next year," Bei Yunj said lightly. Nancy was stunned for a moment, but he quickly reacted. "Is it for your third brother?" Bei Yunj did not say anything. Nancy did not understand Bei Yunj either. Bei Yunj looked like she did not want to get close to the Qin family, but when the Qin family was in trouble, she had to protect the Qin family's interests first. Nancy knew very well how precious the data of Confederation 191 was to Bei Yunj, who was as talented as a hacker. Where did such a cold-faced but warm-hearted girl come from? Nancy could not help muttering. "I owe her this," Bei Yunj said carelessly. When Nancy heard this, he thought that Bei Yunj was talking about Qin Lang. In the afternoon, Wuxia came to Nancy's laboratory. "It's still not possible. She might think that you're not suitable." Nancy touched the teapot and said calmly. "Then who does she like?" Wuxia pursed his lips. "Not yet. Sai, young man, listen to me. He's not a good person." Nancy began to speak ill of her apprentice in a serious manner. However, Wuxia noticed the candy wrapper and unopened candy on the table. He could not help but frown. This candy is, in Wuxia's opinion, this kind of food should not be in a laboratory. It was too disrespectful to scientific research. "You like it?" Nancy was stunned. Wuxia's eyelids twitched. "Senior, do you have any relatives here?" "No," Nancy said. "Then this child snacks." Wuxia's eyes were filled with disgust. Nancy happened to catch the emotions in Wuxia's eyes. Her turbid eyes flashed with a flash of light. "This is food." Wuxia's body trembled. He suddenly raised his head, his gaze exceptionally cold. It was as if Nancy had insulted his idol. Nancy. He couldn't figure out why Bei Yunj had such a good image in Wuxia's eyes. "It's really hers. How old am I? How can I like to eat such things?" Nancy would never admit that she had stolen Bei Yunj's candies. Wuxia also seemed to have suffered a heavy blow. His face didn't look too good. He discovered that his idol's private life was different from what he had imagined. In his opinion, he should be an arrogant, unruly, and cold person. But why would she eat sweets? And they were all strawberry flavored. Then Wuxia said something that didn't sound very smart. "How can she eat candy? Nancy. See how that wicked apprentice of his has got the young man in a trance." He laughed. "What, do you think she's a goddess who can't eat? Only drinking do?" She didn't. Chapter 1069. Wuxia was in a daze and even his figure was on the verge of collapsing. It was as if he had been deceived. Nance looked at Wuxia with pity and thought of what Zhong Shenglin had taught Si Qingyan. Stay away from your idol's private life. Otherwise, you'll never know how wild your idol is when she's not human. "Sai, I'll tell you the truth, kid." Nance could not stand it anymore and tried to persuade him. "Gu, that's not what you imagined at all. She has a bad mouth, a bad temper, and likes to hold grudges." However, Nance did not expect Wuxia to not believe him, and even look at him coldly. "Senior, even if you don't like her, you can't insult her reputation like this," Wuxia said. Nance was speechless. Wasn't he telling the truth? No, Luo. Old Mr. Nance, since you're not willing to help me, I'll go back first. Before Wuxia left, he interrupted Nance's explanation. Oh right, even if you don't help me, I hope you won't insult me like this. He smiled coldly. You were talented back then, but I believe that you will soon surpass your achievements. With that said, Wuxia directly turned and left. Nance was speechless. Hardcore fans could not afford to offend him. These few days, Bei Yunj greeted Huashidu and said that she was studying at her senior's place. Huashidu rarely asked her anything else. He only told her to rest. However, many things had happened in Continent K these few days. As Qinlang was not around, the remaining team members and coaches got into a fight on the way back to the hotel, and were sent to the local police station in Continent K for a few days. And because of this, Qinlang was so angry that he almost beat up this group of bastards and made them his friends. In the ward, the old coach was still discussing a solution with Qinlang. These bastards, they're all too outrageous. If they were in front of you, they wouldn't dare to fight. Qinlang glanced at him and sneered. The old coach paused and smiled awkwardly. But Ojua is indeed stronger than me. He can train you better, but he can't suppress the other brats. In half a month, when I officially leave, Qinlang changed the topic. The whole team was sent to the police station because of a fight. I don't know what the outside world is talking about. Don't worry about that. The news outside has been suppressed. Nothing has been leaked, the old coach said. What? Qinlang looked up at him in surprise. In the past, as long as there was a slight disturbance in the esports circle, it could cause the entire esports circle to sink. However, the news of the entire RS team being sent to the police station for fighting was so explosive, yet it didn't spread like wildfire? Speaking of which, I also find it strange. The headquarters was prepared to suppress it for you, but in the end, the person who suppressed it for you was EG Corporation. The old coach sighed. EG Corporation has been expanding the market in Continent K recently. They're much better than our headquarters. However, why would EG Corporation help us? Qinlang's short silver hair was messy, and his dark eyes were gloomy. He remembered that Ge seemed to know Vic from EG Corporation. However, when Qinlang called Bei Yunj, no one answered. Forget it. Let's find out what happened when they were fighting. Qinlang leaned against the wall and said calmly. 7 days passed. The finals of Map of the Gods on Continent K had begun. Chapter 1070. After Xiaohan hung up the phone, he was completely relaxed. His power would protect him. He just played with a woman, not murder or arson. No matter what, he would not admit to this. How could an artist be associated with a rapist? He would never allow anyone to ruin his image. As for Yuan, Xiaohan crossed his fingers, his eyes filled with viciousness. He would make her regret being so stupid and ignorant. For some reason, the news of Xiaohan being detained by the Yincheng police station exploded on the entire foreign network. Especially when they found out that the instigator of this matter was Yuan. It caused a heated discussion and anger. What does country A mean? Country-wise people detain them so casually? They're so bold. Could there be a conspiracy behind this? The music industry doesn't get involved in politics. I also hope that country A respects artists. Thank you. Isn't Yuan the most speechless one? The International Musicians Association has a hierarchical system. No matter how powerful Yuan is, she's inferior to Mr. Xiaohan in seniority. Isn't it obvious that there's someone behind this? How dare they stop Xiaohan's performance? I request for Yuan to withdraw from the International Musicians Association. That's right. Yin must withdraw from the International Musicians Association. Country A has no right to detain Xiaohan. I heard that too. It said that the woman who was violated looks very ordinary. The discussion grew louder and louder. The next day, there were even members of the International Musicians Association, who jointly requested Yuan to withdraw from the International Musicians Association. However, to everyone's surprise, not only did Du Xiao not let them withdraw, he even forced this group of joint petitioners to withdraw. The people on the foreign network were furious. I can tell now. Du Xiao is Yin's backer. You just found out? When Du Xiao brought Yuan into the International Musicians Association, he probably wanted to pass the position to Yuan. Otherwise, would Yuan dare to be so arrogant? After this incident, Du Xiao's side couldn't be at peace. President Du, how can we protect Yuan? The voices outside are too loud. If this continues, I'm afraid they will boycott the International Musicians Association. Mais, tell me the truth. Did Xiaohan do that kind of thing? Du Xiao asked expressionlessly. Mais wanted to say something but hesitated. Du Xiao. You know, I don't want the International Musicians Association to be handed over to a group of people who have no bottom line. I don't know the details, but the forces behind Xiaohan have been building relationships with the people above Neely recently. I'm afraid it's most likely. Du Xiao rubbed the space between his eyebrows. In the end, he sighed and said indifferently, then no matter what I say, I won't let him stay. President Du. If he stays, it will be troublesome for Yuan. After Du Xiao finished speaking, someone suddenly barged in. Elder Du. Oh no, someone hacked Yun's external account. What? Du Xiao's expression changed. Bei Yun's external account had always been managed by the International Musicians Association. Other than the occasional works, there was nothing else. That person used Yun's account to send a private message to the International Musicians Association. He said that if we don't hand Yuan over, he will attack the International Musicians Association's official website. Let all the programs in the International Musicians Association collapse. The boy who spoke showed the private message to Du Xiao, but the next moment he saw that person using Yun's account to shout. They said that they would attack the International Musicians Association's official website at 10 o'clock today. Extremely arrogant and conceited. Ridiculous. Du Xiao slammed the table angrily and stood up. However, just as Du Xiao made up his mind to contact his friends in this field to deal with this matter, they all avoided him. Obviously, they also thought that Yuan was reaping what she sowed. End of this chapter. Chapter 1071. This should be the most tragic loss in the history of the RS team. How can we continue watching this? What's wrong with the RS team? They changed 2 members of the second team? That's right. Where did Almighty Qin go? We want Almighty Qin. We want Almighty Qin. The fans of the RS team were furious and dissatisfied, but they did not know that Qin Lang was injured and hospitalized. At this moment, Xiaoji's eyes were filled with mockery and he was overjoyed. He had finally trampled the RS team under his feet. It's too boring to win like this. One more round and we'll win completely. Xiaoji's team started to clamor. The team members on the other side were without a leader and started to panic. After all, they had tried to change the main team members in the past, but they did not expect that there would be no main team members. During the intermission, the audience who came because of the fame were attacking the remaining members of the RS team, putting a lot of pressure on the players who went on stage. They were also trying to force Qin Lang out. The coach went on stage and said something like encouragement. Play well. Almighty Qin is waiting for you to win. However, this made the team members even more nervous and they could not think calmly until they were about to go on stage again. The team members could no longer bear the pressure. Coach, but we. No one caught the emotions that flashed past the coach's eyes. He suddenly handed a bottle of water to the team members and comforted them. Daicheng, drink it and it will improve your concentration. Daicheng froze. Looking at the coach's eyes, he quickly understood what it was. Forbidden drugs. 2 years ago, the Maps of the Gods competition clearly stipulated that stimulants and other drugs could not be used to improve the player's concentration. However, occasionally, there would still be players who were found to have used forbidden drugs. Qin Lang had clearly told all of them that those who dared to use forbidden drugs would have to get out of the RS team. No, Brother Lang won't give in. Daicheng immediately refused. He did not want to ruin his career future, nor did he want the RS team to be ashamed of him. The coach suddenly said sternly, "The headquarters have long been concerned about Qin Lang's hand injury. If we don't win this competition, Almighty Qin might be replaced. Do you want Almighty Qin to leave because of you?" Daicheng froze. He also remembered that during the recent meeting, the headquarters wanted to arrange for other people to come in instantly, Daicheng became agitated. But Almighty Qin led us to win so many competitions. The headquarters. That's why you have to win. The coach's words crushed Daicheng's mentality step by step. Daicheng was groomed by Qin Lang and was the most talented player. However, he was also the one in RS who panicked the most because of Qin Lang. Daicheng, only you can save Almighty Qin, do you understand? Don't worry, I won't let anyone find out. The coach guided him step by step. At this moment, Daicheng's heart was already in turmoil. However, just as Daicheng was about to announce the results, there was a sudden exclamation from the audience. Everyone turned their heads subconsciously, but they did not expect to see Qin Lang walking out from the backstage. As for the audience, they were also stunned when they saw the bandage on Qin Lang's hand. What was going on? Almighty Qin was injured? There was no emotion in Qin Lang's clear black eyes. He lowered his head slightly and stroked his signature short silver hair. There was no emotion on his elegant and exquisite face. However, even though Qin Lang was wearing his battle uniform and was only standing among the audience, he still caused an uproar in the field. This caused Xiaoji's gaze to turn gloomy, and the corners of his mouth curled into a sneer. End of chapter. Chapter 1072. On Neely's side. The young man had already regained his senses and wanted to contact his organization, but both the forum and group had disappeared. It was as if they had never existed. The young man's expression changed, and he immediately looked at the local hacker forum and realized that everyone was discussing this matter. Did Guns offend someone recently? They're having a good time. When my friend returned home, he realized that his organization was gone. Guns is involved in politics and only looks at the price when accepting orders. This will be over sooner or later. Ha 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 ha, I'm glad to see this. I heard that Guns has taken on a big order recently. It's from that person from the International Musicians Association. In the end, they received the deposit and their nest is gone. The young man's expression changed. Seeing that it was exactly 10 o'clock, he turned on his phone in a panic, wanting to log into Yun's account. But at this moment, the account could no longer be logged in. The young man regained his senses and his face gradually turned pale. He logged into his personal account again. He realized that there were indeed many people urging him to attack the International Musicians Association's official website. There was no movement from Yun's account either. After reading it, the young man felt a chill run down his spine. This person who could overturn their entire organization in such a short period of time could be said to be terrifyingly strong. 10:30. After Bai Yunj finished writing the report, she could not fall asleep because it was too early. She was bored. After getting out of bed, she poured a glass of cold water and turned on her computer. After logging into the Neely hacker's personal account, she saw a group chat that was crazily sending messages. It was Yun's haters. They were all questioning the group leader why there was no reaction from the International Musicians Association at 10 o'clock. Bai Yunj raised her eyebrows lazily. As if she had thought of something, the corners of her lips suddenly curved. She clicked on the group message leisurely and slowly changed the name of the group. Yun's Good Girls. Ever since Bai Yunj accidentally saw the non-mainstream nicknames of Momo's classmates, she had an endless love for such non-mainstream names. Song Yao was the first victim, but she was definitely not the last. At this moment, when the group members saw the name, their bodies trembled, and goosebumps appeared all over their bodies. What's going on? Is this group leader F*King playing a spy? Everyone in the group was so shocked that their hair stood on end. Was there something wrong with this group owner? Did he have that serious illness? Yun's obedient girl? Was this the nickname of a primary school fan club? Bai Yunj was still typing lazily. God, why Yuan is the best. The group members were stunned. Has this group owner lost her mind? Many of the group members were so angry that they cursed, but the other party just kept spamming the same sentence and ignored them. Everyone flew into a rage. When they realized that they could not fight against the evil forces, many of them decided to leave the group. But at this moment, they realized that no matter what, they couldn't leave the group. There was even a sentence that popped up in the background. You enjoy the lifelong membership of Yun's Good Girls. Everyone. It wasn't harmful, but it was extremely insulting. They wanted to kill the group leader. While everyone was fuming with anger, Bai Yunj was still slowly writing a program. He didn't wait for the group members to react. Suddenly, they saw someone taking the lead to swipe. God Yun is the best. God Yun is the best. All of them kept swiping this message as if they were possessed. When they regained their senses, they realized that they were also swiping uncontrollably. Chapter 1073. And the ones who were most agitated were the anti-fans who had just joined the Boycott Yun group chat. Who would have thought that before he could conceive a great anti-fan career, the group chat would become Yun's Good Girls, in the blink of an eye? A certain boy's body trembled. What the F***ck? Is this a F***king trap? Before he could come back to his senses, what was even more creepy was that he saw all the group members excitedly scrolling. God Yun is the best. As an anti-fan, he felt a chill run down his spine. He had actually been deceived by a hardcore fan club. The boy immediately wanted to leave the group and run away, but when he chose to leave the group, a sentence popped up from the backstage. You enjoy the lifetime membership of Yun's Good Girls. The boy. Was this something a human would do? But until later. Only then did the others know that this anti-fan group was called Boycott Yun. As long as they chose to join the group chat, the name would immediately change to Yun's Good Girls. What a good trick. At the same time, the young man, who was mentally preparing himself, took a deep breath and clicked on it when he heard the constant notifications from the group chat. However, he did not expect the situation to change. No one was scolding him anymore. Even the group name had changed. The young man looked at the God Yun is the best. His expression changed, but the fear in his heart also arose. It was obvious. After the other party hacked into his computer, he obtained all his information, and even knew who he was. The young man took a deep breath and suppressed his fear. He no longer dared to provoke this person. He could not win against this person at all. But immediately after, everyone saw that Yun had actually updated her status. It was as if she was feeding everyone chicken soup for life, but it was also inexplicably annoying. Yun, in this world, there are always people secretly loving you. Picture. The attached picture was a screenshot of a group message called Yun's Good Girls. Inside, all of them were spamming the slogan, God Yun is the best. And those who were paying attention to this matter realized that these people who were spamming slogans were all Yun's anti-fans. What was going on? Were these anti-fans all fence-sitters? Where were the hackers who wanted to attack the International Musicians Association? They had agreed to meet at 10 o'clock, so why was the account back in Yun's hands? The onlookers couldn't understand. And all the anti-fans were so angry that they almost blacked out. How shameless could he be? How shameless was she? In the meantime, many unorganized anti-fans were puzzled. They could not understand why their former comrades had suddenly betrayed them. Hence, when the unorganized anti-fans saw that there was still a group of people in the biggest boycott group, they all applied to join the group. But then, the familiar scene appeared again. In the blink of an eye, the group name suddenly changed to Yun's Good Girls. The new haters. ? What the heck? What kind of death operation was this? That night, all the anti-fans felt for the first time what it meant to kick an iron board. That night, Yun's group of girls continued to grow. Every member who had entered the group and received the honor of being a lifelong fan was so angry that they couldn't sleep. Especially later on. The old anti-fans tried their best to tell everyone not to join a certain anti-fan group, but there were always people who killed the cat out of curiosity. They became Yun's obedient girl, and fell into extreme regret. Du Xiaoge? Du Xiao, you got the account back? Chapter 1074. Especially when they saw that their favorite team member was half dead. What the F***ck, is this new girl crazy? Why is the team battle like this? God, I can play better than her even if I use my face to roll on the keyboard. The fans of RS team were especially angry. However, after Bai Yunj saw the skill level of the other members of the team, her originally clear voice became slightly hoarse. Dai Cheng Jian, 25 seconds. The rest of you, continue to defend. Hearing this, Daicheng and Jiayan froze when they heard this familiar sentence. Others might not know what it meant to announce the time. But in RS team, this was a common sentence for Daicheng, Jiayan and Qinlang. This person had probably watched a lot of videos of their games. However, even Qinlang rarely announced the time within 30 seconds. However, in the current situation, RS team had all fallen. This was their last chance to turn the tables. Daicheng and Jiayan gritted their teeth and could only rush up to attack. Just as Xiao Ji and the others were about to deal with Daicheng and Jiayan, Bai Yunj finally took action to attract the firepower. The audience and the people in the live broadcast room exploded. Is this girl crazy? What is she planning to do by attacking with Half-Blood? Is she going to deliver a kill and it's a 1 versus 4? Don't play if you don't know how to play. This F*King RS team is going to become a joke, because of her. At this moment, Xiao Ji's eyes were also filled with sarcasm. He only left one person to deal with Daicheng and Jiayan, who were Half-Blood. Bai Yunj suddenly pursed her lips and a playful smile appeared on her beautiful eyes. When the others were not paying attention, 15 seconds had passed. Suddenly, no one noticed that the person in RS team's main seat had already operated the keyboard as fast as a shadow. A snake-like movement, coupled with a dazzling operation, was so fast that no one could see the control clearly under the game's special effects. Even the commentator felt that it was only a moment. The words in the middle of the screen seemed to be stuck. From the first kill to the fourth kill, it was done in one go. Before the commentator could even speak, the main god controlled by Bai Yunj had already teleported to Daicheng's direction in the last 3 seconds. The fifth kill and the destruction of the camp made this game end in 3 seconds. This scene, even Daicheng and Jiayan were stunned. Why was this so different from what they had agreed with Almighty Qin before? Almighty Qin reported that he would arrive in half a minute to assist. This father's time report was to end the battle in 25 seconds? What kind of extreme reversal was this? Commentator. Why was there another person who wanted to ruin their livelihood? He hadn't even started commentating, but the competition was already over? Originally, they thought that the most difficult task would be explaining Almighty Qin. But now they suddenly felt that this newcomer was even more inhuman. The bullet screen was dead silent as well. Just now, was there something wrong with their network? Why did the battle end in the blink of an eye? The bullet screen and live audience went crazy. Did this newbie cheat? F*CK, I just realized that this Big Shots record in Continent C is against Team HK. Team HK hasn't won even once. Wait, let me make sure that I'm not dreaming. Will RS win? F*CK, this big sister is really fierce. Too ferocious. 5 straight kills. This flying effect is even better than Almighty Qin. Look at the expressions of the other RS team members. They're all dumbfounded. I'm dying of laughter. Billion God. Blow up our Billion God, woo. I just saw the forum and found out that Billion God actually came to substitute for the competition. I can finally see my daddy Billion play live. End of chapter. Chapter 1075. The friend above is late. Yuri Shen is already in a killing frenzy. The people on the other side are all gone. The livestream platform had a nameplate special effect for the rich people who had rewarded them. Therefore, one of the comments by an ID called Brother Ishan's Little Cutie jumped into the eyes of the public. Why is my Ishan a girl? Everyone seemed to be able to hear the heartbreak of his girlfriend fans, and couldn't help but want to laugh. But then, the annoying netizens in the livestream started to bully the rich people. Sister Ishan's little cutie. DBQ Ishan is too handsome, I'm here to get the ID. Sister Ishan's little cutie, me too. Doghead. Sister Ishan's little cutie. Sob sob sob, who isn't a Ishan's little cutie? This competition directly sent, earn 100 million first, to the hot search in China and abroad. It also made the scalps of the other teams that wanted to crush RS team today tingle. The previous round took at most 15 minutes. Xiaoji's team used more than 10 minutes to beat RS team to a pulp. But RS team relied on Ishan alone to turn the tide in 25 seconds and destroy the team. Even the opponent's resurrection time had not started. Almighty Qin left, and Yishen came. Xiaoji's face darkened and he almost threw his keyboard. Who exactly are you? He was so close to beating Qinlang. Pei Yunj was still slowly putting on her black leather gloves. Her eyes were filled with laziness and impudence as she said slowly, "You don't have to know who I am. Those who are beaten down can only call me Daddy." Dai Cheng and the other members. This temporary captain was so ruthless. The first round was just luck. Next, I'll let you know the consequences of being arrogant, Xiaoji said fiercely. But in the last 2 rounds, after RS team calmed down, they were already familiar with Bei Yunj's command. As long as Bei Yunj went to destroy the camp, the entire competition was very thorough. 2. Crushing him. This was even worse than when Qinlang was the main force. The second half of the competition between Xiaoji's team and RS team ended in less than half an hour. And the applause of RS team's victory was like bad news. Shaking the other teams, Xiaoji's team was over. They were next. The live stream and the audience were very lively. Ha 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 ha. Yishen is killing like crazy, killing like crazy. This RS fan is so happy. Who wouldn't say that Daddy E is awesome? Almighty Qin's fans are also thrilled. But if Almighty Qin comes back, who will be the captain? They are both so strong. Am I the only one who thinks they can be a couple? No. I said no. I will not allow my 2 husbands to betray me. He stopped midway. The captain of the HK team walked over with a terrible expression. This made Dai Cheng and the others subconsciously stand in front of Bei Yunj, fearing that there would be a conflict. After all, they had always been at odds with the HK team. Dai Cheng was caught off guard and pushed away by the HK captain. What are you trying to do? This voice attracted the attention of the spectators from the other teams. But then everyone's jaws dropped. The HK captain looked aggrieved. Coach, why did you become the captain of RS? Bei Yunj glanced at him. Weren't you unwilling to join RS? HK captain. Did she mean that he was unwilling to join RS, so she was the only one who could replace him? As for the others, when they saw this scene, their jaws almost fell to the ground. They had always heard that the HK team had improved tremendously recently, because of a big boss coach. So this coach was Yishen. P.S. Good night. End of chapter. Chapter 1076. Student. Put down your weapon. Let's talk nicely. The people around were shocked. They did not expect Bei Yunj to act so quickly. Even the staff could not react in time. Xiao Han also felt that death had enveloped his life. For the first time, he felt like his life was hanging by a thread and his eyes were filled with fear. Yu Chiefchen was furious. Who are you? Do you know what you're doing? Put it down. Bei Yunj licked her red lips and suddenly smirked. Before anyone could react, she punched Xiao Han's face ruthlessly. Xiao Han's mouth was filled with blood and his teeth were loose. After howling in pain, he was trembling in fear. The rest of the people were also anxious and in disbelief. They did not expect someone to dare to hit someone in the police station. Crazy, crazy. She was really crazy. Bei Yunj turned her neck, and the sound of her muscles and bones moving could be heard clearly. She suddenly laughed, and her voice was dangerous and cold. Are you threatening me? Tell me, what kind of urn do you like? Xiao Han met Bei Yunj's cold eyes and felt as if he was soaked in ice as his body trembled. Fortunately, at this moment, Song Yao heard the commotion at the door and immediately opened the door and rushed in. When she saw this scene, her face paled slightly, and she immediately went up to grab Bei Yunj's hand. Yunj? Yunj, calm down. The redness in Bei Yunj's eyes faded, and she saw Song Yao holding her hand. Are you all right? After Bei Yunj regained her senses, she took a deep breath and said calmly, My hand hurts. Everyone was speechless. Good fellow. Why did it feel like she was being bullied? Then don't be rash. I'll go buy disinfectant cotton for you. It was not the first time Song Yao had seen Bei Yunj unable to suppress her temper. Her fierce appearance was indeed scary. Got it. Bei Yunj replied calmly. Song Yao touched Bei Yunj's head and ran out hurriedly. The others did not dare to agitate Bei Yunj, afraid that Bei Yunj would do it again. Outside the door, Chiefchen had a bad temper. Find her parents. Call this person's parents over. Have you found the school's parents' phone numbers? The staff member checked slowly. Soon soon. Who wouldn't shout good in their hearts when they saw Xiaohan being beaten like a dog? However, with Chief Chen around, no one could say anything. What bastard is this? Daring to snatch a gun here. I want to see which parent raised such a daughter. Chief Chen finished speaking. The staff member had already made the call, but when he heard the familiar, formulaic reply, he felt a little strange. There was an inexplicable sense of familiarity. Hello, is this the Hualing Subdistrict Police Station in Yun City? Please wait a moment. Someone will come to deal with it in half an hour. The staff answered in confusion. After hanging up the phone, he felt that he had seen this phone number before. Chief Chen had already brought the foreign negotiators and Xiaohan into the meeting room. 20 minutes later, the staff member suddenly had a ridiculous idea in his mind. He immediately opened the record book and checked the phone numbers one by one. She didn't expect that he would really find her a few minutes later. He took a closer look. In the office of the Southern District of Country A. He stood up suddenly and was about to go in to report when he saw a white-haired elder walk in energetically. He smiled politely and asked, "Little comrade, I'm here to look for someone. May I know where the meeting room is?" Chapter 1077. The staff looked at the person in front of him and almost blacked out. His lips were trembling. Choo. What's wrong with her? Why isn't this girl picking up her phone? Elder Chu turned on his flip phone seriously and kept calling Bei Yunj. He did not expect the other party to suddenly pick up. Before Elder Chu could speak, he heard Chief Chen's unfriendly tone. Bei Yunj's parent? Don't tell me you're not coming? If you're not coming, I'll deal with this child directly. Hearing Chief Chen speak to Elder Chu like this, the staff beside him panicked and did not dare to look at Elder Chu's expression. Knowing that Bei Yunj might have gotten into trouble, Elder Chu's temper was still relatively good. I'm coming. Chief Chen sneered. He did not realize that this voice was exceptionally familiar and hung up the phone. Elder Chu was speechless. Were all the small cadres nowadays so bad-tempered? Elder Chu, I'll handle this matter. The staff carefully looked at the person beside Elder Chu and his heart skipped a beat. Even the person beside Elder Chu was 2 levels higher than Chief Chen. Elder Chu snorted and walked up without explaining. Actually, Elder Chu was unhappy. The news of Bei Yunj becoming the top scholar in the college entrance examination had spread throughout the district. Even Elder Lung had an invitation to the banquet, but he did not. This girl was too heartless. She did not even think about who took care of her like his biological granddaughter when she was training in the district. At this thought, Elder Chu walked up angrily. The staff could not come back to his senses for a long time. Why was it Elder Chu? What are you thinking about? Has Yun's parent gone up? Uncle Lu came over and asked. He also sighed. This child is actually quite good. She likes to help others. It's just that her temper is a little bad. Coming. The staff nodded, feeling a little numb. All right, I'll go up and take a look. After Uncle Lu finished speaking, the staff suddenly called out to him. Uncle Lu. What's wrong? Uncle Lu was puzzled. Please change your clothes. The staff sized him up and said seriously, it's best if you shave your beard and straighten your back. You'll look more energetic. Uncle Lu was speechless. What was wrong with him? It was not like he was meeting some big boss. What was he doing? Upstairs. They didn't expect that after the incident, the Chief Chen of the crematorium still had a cold expression on his face. Bei Yunj didn't know what to think. She glanced at the phone in Chief Chen's hand and then at Xiao Han, who had just finished bandaging his wound. Xiao Han met Bei Yunj twice and was beaten up twice. Each meal was more vicious than the last. Why aren't your parents here yet? Chief Chen asked coldly. Bei Yunj was also impatient. How would I know which side you called? The school's reserved phone number had been changed over and over again by those people who couldn't be provoked. If she asked a few more questions, they would think that she was annoying them. Chief Chen's expression changed. Ridiculous. Don't you know who your own parents are? He sneered. Today, no matter who your parents are, what you've done is enough for you to bear legal responsibility. At that time, even if you are sent to the international border prison, you asked for it. Who do you think you are? Do you think you can be the hero for everything? Bei Yunji's eyes twitched. Before she could say anything, a voice came from the door. Why do you have to go to prison if you want to be a hero? Chief Chen knew that Bei Yunji's parents had arrived. He turned around and sneered. No wonder you dared to commit murder in the bureau at such a young age. I think it's because the upper beam is not upright, Elder Chu. Chapter 1078. Director Chen instinctively stood up, his entire body tense. His mind was in a mess. He didn't understand why Elder Chu would appear here. And one of the foreigners happened to have seen Elder Chu before. His expression changed slightly and he had the same question as Director Chen. The upper beam is not upright and the lower beam is not upright? Elder Chu laughed, but there was no smile on his face. From the beginning to the end, he gave off an inviolable sense of dignity. Silly girl, what did you do this time? You got someone to scold me while you were at it. Although he was scolding Bei Yunji, Director Chen was scared witless. He felt that Elder Chu's words were directed at him. After regaining his senses, Director Chen's face turned even paler, and he looked incredulous. Bei Yunji's guardian is Elder Chu? Therefore, he was shouting at Elder Chu on the phone just now and even scolded him in front of him. Director Chen suddenly felt a chill down his spine, and he almost fainted. He had already checked Bei Yunji's information, but he didn't expect that the guardian would be Elder Chu. Elder Chu only glanced at him indifferently and said calmly, Don't worry about my identity. I'm here this time to find out what this fellow has done. If she's really guilty, I won't disobey the law. But if my girl is being bullied, Elder Chu sneered, but everyone present had a bad feeling. This old man isn't dead yet. I want to see which dog dares to bite my head. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone's scalps went numb, and they didn't dare to look at Elder Chu. Everyone knew that Elder Chu was famous for his bad temper, and he never gave anyone face. But it was this kind of Elder Chu who had made countless contributions when he was young. Even many of the main characters in movies and TV series were based on him. At this moment, Director Chen's legs were already trembling. He swallowed his saliva and his eyes were still empty. How could Bei Yunji's guardian be Elder Chu? Originally, he had planned to solve this matter without telling the higher-ups. After all, Xiaohan's background was very powerful and even had connections with Country A. It was fine for him to give Xiaohan some face. Besides, he didn't think that it was worth it to create a conflict between two countries for a powerless woman. But the unexpected mistake was this Bei Yunji. Bei Yunji also fell silent. Not long after she asked, Old Master? You my guardian? She couldn't understand why this group of old men had such similar interests. She liked to be a parent everywhere she went. Why can't I? Elder Chu said confidently. All right. Bei Yunji leaned back, closed her eyes and rubbed her eyes. She didn't care if there was one more person. What's wrong with you? You didn't even pick up your phone? Elder Chu was very engrossed in his role. Bei Yunji glanced lazily at Director Chen, who was about to shut himself up. How are you going to pick it up if it's taken away? Director Chen, who was holding Bei Yunji's phone, was speechless. Under Elder Chu's gaze, Director Chen slowly placed the phone in front of Bei Yunji. Who can tell me what's going on? Elder Chu asked coldly. Director Chen's body stiffened at this moment. He didn't dare to push the blame to Bei Yunji. He was afraid that Elder Chu would get angry and throw him out. Xiaohan was not afraid at all. It was Bei Yunji who hit me time and time again. She even pointed a gun at me. Elder Chu looked at Bei Yunji. Did he do that? Bei Yunji said slowly yes. Chapter 1079. Lai Yinqing laughed sarcastically from behind. She wanted to see with her own eyes how Bei Yunji was asking for trouble. Suddenly, the man beside her walked towards Bei Yunji. This made the sarcasm in Lai Yinqing's eyes grow stronger. But in the next moment, the man looked at the little girl in front of him casually for a while. Suddenly, he chuckled softly and naturally went along with her intentions. Then I'll try it first. The man's tone was neither fast nor slow. Before Bei Yunji could regain her senses, his slender figure had already bent down and his ambiguous breath was on her cheek. The itchy and hot invasion made her even more unbearable. Bei Yunji's body froze. She felt that in this position, the man's thin lips would be able to touch hers if they were just a little closer. At this moment, the man's gaze was unfathomable, as if there was some kind of desire surging in his eyes. He stared straight at her, making her ears burn. She did not expect this D*MN man to use his gaze to seduce her in front of others. Before Bai Yunj could move, the man's low and hoarse laughter drifted into her ears. It was so seductive. It's quite sweet. As soon as she finished speaking, the man's lips suddenly curled up. His slender and well-defined fingers slowly stuffed the black wallet into the little girl's pocket. Huashida's low laughter was not very serious, but it was also so intimate that it made one's head heat up. Little rich woman, feed me. Bai Yunj instinctively raised her hand, but when she reacted, the man reached out and grabbed her slender wrist. He gently bit the strawberry-flavored soft candy that she had just opened. Bai Yunj felt the wetness and heat on her fingertips. Her long and curly eyelashes fluttered violently. The moment she looked up, she saw the man licking his thin red lips. It was so tempting. When Lai Yunqing saw this scene, her face turned green and red. Her face was filled with disbelief. She had also seen the man's intimate and ambiguous behavior towards Bai Yunj just now. How did Huashida know Bai Yunj? And they were so close? At this moment, only Luoxia glanced at the candy wrapper in Bai Yunj's hand and suddenly froze. Wasn't this the candy wrapper he saw in Nancy's lab? Luoxia suddenly raised his eyes. His mind had a very frightening guess. He looked at Bai Yunj. You. Bai Yunj looked at the man. After resisting the urge to kiss him for a while, she heard Luo speak to her. What is it? Luoxia immediately asked. Where did you get this candy? Bai Yunj. A dark look flashed across her eyes and she said slowly, I got it from Nancy. Luoxia unconsciously let out a sigh of relief, but he still asked, Really? Bai Yunj was also very patient. Yes. That's good. Luoxia immediately relaxed. After looking at Bai Yunj, he also felt that he was thinking too much. Bai Yunj was not even 20 years old. She was probably a few years older than him. How could they be the same person? Suddenly, Bai Yunj saw from the corner of her eye that the back of Huashida's knuckles were slightly red. Brother, what happened to your hand? Does it hurt? Bai Yunj held it up and looked at it carefully. Huashidu looked down at the little girl in front of him who was nervous about him. His hand was also being rubbed by her warm and soft hand. The corners of his lips curled up. Yes, it does hurt quite a bit. Zhou Yu, who knew the truth, Cui Hengchuan, who had just fainted and was dragged to the hospital, was in even more pain. Bai Yunj looked up and saw the man pursing his lips and smiling. His peach blossom eyes seemed to float up, and the corners of his eyes were slightly raised. The way he stared at her was too voodoo. End of chapter. Chapter 1080. Bai Yunj immediately let go of his hand and turned her face away unnaturally. However, Huashidu caught a glimpse of the little girl's red ears as she slowly chewed on the melted soft candy. How did Mr. Hui get to know Miss Pei? Lai Yunqing asked with a stiff smile. But a moment later, Lai Yunqing's expression changed slightly as she realized that the man did not like others probing about him at all. She immediately forced a smile. I didn't expect Miss Pei's identity to be so extraordinary. To Lai Yunqing, what was even more extraordinary was Bai Yunj's methods. She could actually get close to Huashidu. Similarly, Lai Yunqing could not hide her jealousy and hatred as she looked at Bai Yunj. Because of Bai Yunj, her younger brother, Lai Yunheng, was not only expelled from K-Continent Academy, but also had to take a leave of absence for 3 months to recuperate. However, Bai Yunj's relationship with Huashidu was not ordinary. She could not risk the Lai family and offend Huashidu. All of a sudden, Huashidu reached out and rubbed the space between the little girl's eyebrows intimately with his fingers. The warmth that remained on her skin was ambiguous as he said faintly, Yun, you'll be returning to school in a few months. Do you want to find a tutor here? Hearing this, a strange glint flashed across Lai Yunqing's eyes and her smile deepened. Mr. Hua, actually, there's a training camp in Laboratory 191 recently. Luoxia frowned and looked at Lai Yunqing. The training camp in Laboratory 191 was not suitable for a pampered young lady like Bai Yunj who had never seen much of the world. Those who dared to sign up for that training camp had always been scientific elites from all over the world. Moreover, it was said that there were many talented contestants among the people who signed up this year. Even if Lai Yunqing was there, she might not be able to get the first prize. Luoxia could not help but speak up. Yunqing, in a place like the Confederate Alliance's 191 training camp, her identity. A certain someone suddenly let out a lazy ah. She seemed to be quite worried. Training camp? But brother wants to open the back door and send me there. What if I get first place? That won't be good, right? Luoxia. This kind of confidence that was bursting to the brim was rarely seen. As expected, Lai Yunqing's smile froze and there was sarcasm in her eyes. If Miss Pei is worried about this, I can actually invite you. Luoxia immediately interrupted. Professor Lai, Confederate 191 has already stopped registering you. It's not a big deal to stop the registration. I just need to tell Wang Huiying to add another slot. Lai Yunqing's eyes were filled with a cold sneer. Wang Huiying was famous for humiliating trash to show off her sense of superiority. At that time, Bei Yunj would definitely be fooled by Wang Huiying. However, Lai Yunqing didn't notice the smile on Bei Yunj's face and the way she looked at her. This was the first time she felt that Lai Yunqing was a normal person. Although Lai Yunqing didn't seem to have anything good in her head. Huashida looked at the little girl's itchy expression and subconsciously pursed his lips. His upturned peach blossom eyes were filled with a smile. Su's gaze was so foul that it made one's heart beat wildly. Zhou Yu's eyelids twitched when he saw Master Du looking at Miss Pei with a doting gaze. Master Du was openly using the Lai family as a springboard for Miss Pei. Bei Yunj suddenly said, Professor Lai, I'll treat you to a meal. Lai Yunqing's gaze was gloomy, but she quickly pretended to be surprised and smiled. Isn't it too extravagant? Bei Yunj looked at her with interest. That won't happen. P.S. Master Pei. Otherwise, I won't feel at ease when I slap your face in the future. End of chapter. Chapter 1081. After a while, Lai Yunqing watched as Bei Yunj skillfully took out the black wallet that Huashida had stuffed into her pocket to pay. The smile on her face was also slightly distorted. She really couldn't understand why a man like Huashida would take a fancy to Bei Yunj. He even indulged her to this extent? Master Du, do you know what kind of hell level the Confederate 191's training camp is? How dare you treat Bei Yunj? Before Luoxia could finish speaking, Huashida slowly interrupted him. It's good for her to interact more with others. Luoxia. Are you sure you won't shatter your little girl's confidence? Luoxia could tell that Huashida was extremely indulgent towards Bei Yunj. Master Du, you'll regret it sooner or later if you spoil her like this. After speaking, Luoxia also walked away. At this moment there was no one around. Master Du, there are many people with status who are participating in the training camp this year. Miss Pei Shi. Zhou Yu hesitated. However, the man just pulled down his tie unhurriedly. The loose collar made him look light and lazy. Then let's properly remind them who this person is. Hearing this, Zhou Yu couldn't help but shudder. Yes, he didn't expect that every time he felt that Master Du doted on Miss Pei enough, Master Du would continue to break through the bottom line. Let her go in and have fun for a while. Huashida smirked as he watched Bei Yunj walk towards him. Aren't you going to treat someone to a meal? Huashida naturally reached out to tidy Bei Yunj's slightly messy hair. I've already paid. After Bei Yunj finished speaking, she stuffed the used black wallet into the man's coat pocket. She even added, I didn't use much. Zhou Yu maintained his smile and didn't say anything. Ha! What's wrong with spending some money? Even if you sold Master Du out, Master Du might not be angry. In the restaurant, Lai Yunqing couldn't help but secretly ask Luoxia. She smiled. Miss Pei is really young and energetic. Mr. Hua also dotes on her a lot. I wonder if Mr. Hua will send someone to accompany Miss Pei to the training camp? Luoxia snorted. Send someone to accompany her to the training camp? Master Du has already been bewitched to the point that he has lost his rationality. Do you still think that there's someone who can compare to Bei Yunj? Lai Yunqing did not expect to get such an answer. But after hearing Luoxia's words, she relaxed. Her lips curled into a sarcastic smile. Since that was the case, it was the best solution. Confederation Laboratory number 191 was located in a remote castle in Continent K. Bai Yunj went in smoothly. Hello, which training camp are you from? Suddenly someone asked. Bai Yunj turned around and saw a young man wearing glasses. Which training camp? There's no biology course this year. The training camp only has chemistry, physics, and computer science. The young man was a little impatient. Bai Yunj's eyes moved, and she thought for a moment. Physics. Hearing this, the young man frowned and glanced at her with an inquisitive gaze. What does your family do? Bai Yunj thought for a moment and said, It makes money. The young man. Bai Yunj rubbed her thumb and said impatiently, Big brother makes money, second brother sings, and third brother likes to play games. The young man. This family lived a very muddle-headed life. The young man nodded. So you're a poor student. Bai Yunj. End of chapter. Chapter 1082. After Xiao Han came to his senses, he shivered again and hurriedly called Du Xiao. But in the end, he was told that the International Musicians Association had forced him out. How is this possible? How could this be? Xiao Han's face was ashen and his heart was throbbing with pain. He staggered and fell to the ground without a care for his image. Bai Yunj returned to the Computing Institute. What's wrong? It's rare to see you here at this time. Zhong Shenglin laughed. Old master, didn't you find me a doctor recently? Where is he? Zhong Shenglin was stunned by Bai Yunj's sudden positive attitude. Then he smiled from ear to ear. Wait a moment. I'll ask him if he has time to come now. Zhong Shenglin was very happy. After all, he had always been most worried about Bai Yunj's psychological problems. Usually, Bai Yunj treated this matter very casually. Scientific research was more important than her health. But today, she actually took the initiative to look for a doctor. In the research lab, Bai Yunj also lowered her eyes. Her thoughts were running wild. Actually, in the past year, she rarely had uncontrollable violent thoughts, so she always thought that her situation was much better than before. Half an hour later, suddenly, there was a knock on the door. A young man pushed the door open and entered. When he walked in and saw Bai Yunj's face, he was stunned. You are? Bai Yunj did not care about his probing and replied indifferently, Yes. My name is Yu Jilin. Yu Jilin, who had always been indifferent, looked at Bai Yunj in front of him and felt inexplicably nervous. He did not expect that the new scientific researcher was actually a young girl in her 20s. Hello. Bai Yunj was polite, but her attitude was more distant. But to Yu Jilin, who had seen all kinds of people, he could understand. When will the treatment start? Bai Yunj's sudden question made Yu Jilin react. I only know a little about you. I might need to spend some time with you. Yu Jilin said. Miss, can you relax and chat with me? Bai Yunj agreed, but after 2 hours they got very little useful information. After all, Bai Yunj's problem started in her previous life, so she couldn't describe the circumstances of her previous life in detail. In the end, Yu Jilin decided to wait for a few days. He wanted to make another appointment to see how Bai Yunj interacted with the social environment. Before leaving, Bai Yunj asked casually, Dr. Yu, will my condition affect the people around me? Yu Jilin was silent. Miss Pei, your condition is very likely to lead to violent tendencies. Also, you had such thoughts today. But I don't want to hurt the people around me. Bai Yunj pursed her lips. I know you're sincere to the people around you. However, Miss Pei, if relationships are based on communication, it might be difficult for you to feel the love of others when your illness worsens. Yu Jilin teased, however, I don't think Miss Pei has a boyfriend. At this point, Yu Jilin saw Bai Yunj suddenly look at him. He heard the other party say slowly, I'm actively cooperating with the treatment so that I can have a boyfriend. Yu Jilin was speechless. Miss Pei, don't worry. There's no result yet. We don't have to be too pessimistic. Yu Jilin wanted to comfort Bai Yunj, but he didn't expect her to nod her head as if she understood. Then do I have a chance to fall in love in university? Chapter 1083. Yu Jilin. He could not tell that this person actually wanted to fall in love so much. For a few days, Huashidu could feel that Bei Yunj was looking at him with a complicated gaze. However, as soon as he approached, Bei Yunj would lower her head and write something on the computer. This made Huashida think that this child had gotten into some trouble and could not solve it by himself. In the corporation, in the huge office, the light from the floor-to-ceiling window not far away shone on the man's side profile through the gaps in the blinds. "How's that matter going?" Hearing Huashida's sudden question, Zhou Yu was stunned for a moment before he immediately said, "Xiaohan's matter has been resolved." The man was silent for a moment. "Is there anything else?" Zhou Yu hesitated. "There shouldn't be anything else recently. Hasn't Miss Pei been going to the computing institute?" Zhou Yu knew a little about Bei Yunj's whereabouts, but he would not follow her. He would only secretly remove some obstacles for Miss Pei. The man retracted his gaze and hummed lightly before letting Zhou Yu leave. In the evening, Zhou Yu was sitting in Tseng Su's office and playing with his phone when he suddenly saw Tseng Su running in a panic. "What's wrong with you? Can you calm down? If Master Du sees you, you will be despised again." Zhou Yu's eyes were filled with disdain. Tseng Su seemed to have suddenly entered a meditative state and cursed again. F***ck Zhou Yu? ? Then Zhou Yu's face darkened. "What are you doing? I only sat in your office for a while. What's with your attitude?" "No." Tseng Su swallowed his saliva and said with some difficulty, "I went to a hotel near Muse today to accompany a customer for a meal and saw Miss Pei." "And then?" Zhou Yu asked instinctively. "I saw her walk into Muse with a man beside her." After Tseng Su finished speaking, Zhou Yu was about to say something when he suddenly noticed someone passing by the door. His expression changed, and he gestured for Tseng Su to shut up. However, Tseng Su was very excited. "Do you know Muse? This is a bar. Miss Pei actually swaggered into a bar with a man. This is clearly the little cabbage that our Master Du has painstakingly raised has been snatched away by someone else." "Zhou, do you dare to stab Master Du in the heart again?" Zhou Yu had no choice but to brace himself and stand up. Master Du. Tseng Su's body trembled when he heard this. It was over. Huashidu only glanced at them unhurriedly. There was no expression on his face as he walked away. Seeing this, Zhou Yu swallowed his saliva and asked carefully, "Master Du, is he angry or not? After so many years, I still haven't been able to figure it out through Master Du." "You don't have to think about this. As long as it concerns Miss Pei, Master Du is no different from an ordinary man." Tseng Su still felt as if the god of death had just descended upon him, and his heart was still filled with lingering fear. "Muse." Bei Yunj's eyes twitched. "Observe from here? Yes. You just sit at the bar counter. If someone comes looking for you, you can chat normally like before. Yu Jilin even brought a book to analyze and record at any time." Bei Yunj. This was the first time he had encountered such a treatment method. Bei Yunj walked to the bar counter and sent a message to Huashidu, saying that she would be home later today. Very quickly, the man replied to her message simply. Bei Yunj did not pay much attention to it. She sat at the bar counter and drank. It had to be said. Bei Yunj only needed to sit there and not say anything to attract the attention of most people. Chapter 1084. After a while, a man in a suit with a glass of champagne in his hand leaned against the bar counter with a smile. "Miss, are you alone?" Bei Yunj was about to say something when she noticed Yu Jilin's gaze. "Yes. Shall I treat you to a drink?" The man in the suit smiled confidently and placed the Mercedes-Benz keys on the bar counter. "Miss, you look very young. You should be a university student." Bei Yunj bit the straw for a while and looked down at the low-alcohol cocktail he handed over. She suddenly laughed. The way she raised her eyebrows was charming. But then Bei Yunj snapped her fingers and slowly pushed the card to the female bartender with her fingertips. She smiled familiarly and said, "I'll treat everyone here today." As soon as she finished speaking, the man in the suit turned green. As the most high-end bar in Yuncheng, Muse gave a first-class customer experience. Of course, the drinks were also the most expensive. Even if it was him, he wouldn't dare to buy everyone's drinks just for a woman. For a moment, there were cheers in the bar. Yu Jilin, who was not far away, was stunned by Bei Yunj's actions. He had wanted to see how she would politely reject others or chat with others casually. After all, the atmosphere in a bar was very relaxed, but it also tested one's social skills. However, he never thought that the moment Pei Yunj came up, she would be like a frequent customer of a nightclub. She scared everyone away. But fortunately, although Pei Yunj's lineup was a little big, there were also many people who came for her face. Yu Jilin eavesdropped on them. "Miss, do you have any hobbies?" Pei Yunj didn't even look up. Scientific research. It was rare to see 2 words end a conversation. No one would have thought that flirting with girls would require some scientific research. But fortunately, that person's psychological quality was not bad. He forced a smile and said, "Is that so? Actually, I'm more curious. What kind of guy does Miss like?" Yu Jilin admired such a straightforward pickup artist. But soon he heard Pei Yunj's perfunctory and playful tone. Good-looking, gentle, at least 185 meters tall. It's best if his surname is Hua. My family once told me my fortune and said, "The surname Hua can suppress me." This young lady with bright eyebrows and cold eyes, when she said the last sentence, it made people feel inexplicably flirtatious. The flirting man's smile froze. Not to mention the other characteristics of Pei Yunj, the surname Hua alone was rare in Yunqing. "Sir, are you planning to show me your ID card?" Pei Yunj poked the ice twice with a straw and asked leisurely. The pickup guy left awkwardly. Yu Jilin numbly recorded Pei Yunj's devastating rejection. However, just as the next person fearlessly came up to hit on her, Huashida happened to be not far away from the hall. He looked at the girl at the bar counter who was smiling. She was talking to a young and unfamiliar man. Huashida's pale-colored eyes were filled with emotions, and the surrounding atmosphere was inexplicably depressed. Sung Soo and Zhou Yu's eyes were about to twitch. Why did they encounter such a scene as soon as they entered? At the same time, this was the first time they felt sorry for their Master Du and feared him. His heart ached that Master Du had really been cuckolded by Miss Pei. They were also afraid that Master Du would smash this bar on the spot and turn it into a crematorium. Sung Soo's hand hurt from Zhou Yu's poke. He could only think of a way to comfort him. "Master Du, don't think too much. Maybe this is Miss Pei's brother?" Zhou Yu. Chapter 1085. At this moment, Elder Ma explained, as the laboratory has been busy recently, there is a shortage of manpower, so the physics and computing competitions are combined this year. However, each team should have 2 or 3 computing contestants, so don't worry. The contestants were speechless. Wasn't this a little too cruel? Different professions were worlds apart. They were actually competing together? Not long after, everyone accepted this fact. Actually, everyone knew a little about physics, but it was not necessarily the case for computing. Therefore, the contestants who knew computing were the key. At this moment, Su Jihuan came to her senses and subconsciously grabbed her team member list. She looked at the new member and had a terrifying premonition. "Are you Hu Qingzhong or Bian Xiaotan?" Du Chaoya's expression was also not very good. He just smiled at her. This smile and silence was already very clear. It was over. She had just chased away 2 computing contestants. The remaining 4 were all physics contestants. Were they going to lose in one round? Not far away, Wang Huiying saw Su Jihuan chase away the 2 computing contestants and her smile deepened. Originally, she had picked the 2 weakest computer players for Su Jihuan, so that Su Jihuan would lose early. She did not expect Su Jihuan to take the initiative to chase them away. "I remember that Miss Wang is the same as me. You've learned computing before, right?" Tang Fengyin smiled. Wang Huiying turned around and also smiled easily. "Yes, it shouldn't be difficult for us. As long as we get first place, the following situation will be very good for us." "No problem." Pei Yunj raised her eyebrows and went into the room to look at the competition rules. She was quite surprised. It's really programming. Su Jihuan could no longer hold it in. "I'm sorry. I chased away the 2 computing contestants just now. Now I'll beg them to come back. I definitely won't implicate you guys." However, before Su Jihuan left, she heard Pei Yunj say, "No need. This isn't difficult." Tang Yi subconsciously asked, "You know computing?" "A little. After Bai Yunj finished speaking, Du Chaoya frowned again. But the other party has at least 2 or 3 computing contestants. Can you do it alone? Yes. Bai Yunj sat down and turned on the computer. Su Jihuan immediately went over and asked curiously, "You've learned it before? When did you learn it?" Bai Yunj. I forgot. I haven't touched this thing in a long time. Su Jihuan and the other two. So how did you manage to remain so calm? Bai Yunj thought that her teammates were silent because they could not understand the game. It's a small game. It's quite simple. It's probably about entering the war zone through a bug and snatching flags. The ranking is determined by the points. However, the others were even more silent. Bai Yunj. Soon the competition began. The 9 war zones with loopholes were opened at the same time. However, because the first 9 battle zones were ranked according to the difficulty, no one disrupted the order and started from the last battle zone. The remaining 3 team members could only watch as Bai Yunj scanned the 9 battle zones and tapped away on the keyboard. But in less than 10 minutes, Su Jihuan saw that Bai Yunj seemed to have changed the battle zone. What was even more eye-catching was that Bai Yunj had jumped out from the last battle zone. Su Jihuan was very anxious. Although she did not understand what Bai Yunj was doing, since there was no increase in points, it meant that Bai Yunj did not get a flag. She wanted to persuade Bai Yunj to start from the simplest battle zone, but she was afraid of hurting Bai Yunj's confidence. P.S. Good night. End of chapter. Chapter 1086. Sir, who are you looking for? Someone asked. Yu Jilin smiled. Miss Pei. At this moment, everyone in the private room felt the pressure around someone become even lower, making it hard for them to breathe. So you continued to watch the show. Oh, sir, what's your relationship with Miss Pei? I'm Miss Pei's. The doctor. Before Yu Jilin could finish speaking, Bai Yunj interrupted him. Just friends. The people around did not think much of it. Yu Jilin raised his eyebrows. He understood that Bai Yunj did not want anyone to know about her illness. Yes. Yu Jilin smiled. However, in the man's eyes it was a different story. The man suppressed the darkness in his eyes. Under the ambiguous light, even his gaze became unfathomable. Suddenly, Huashidu said unhurriedly, "What do you want to play?" Everyone's eyes lit up. This was the first time Master Du had participated in such a boring and meaningless game. Bai Yunj's eyes twitched. She knew that this man's abnormality today had something to do with her. She immediately said, Yu Jilin, you can go back first. I'll go back later. With that said, Bai Yunj's gaze fell on Huashidu. Yu Jilin's eyes flashed, and he looked at the man beside Bai Yunj. After a while he said, Okay. He waited for them to leave. Bai Yunj looked at Huashidu and tugged at his sleeve. Brother? Seeing that his reaction was still cold, Bai Yunj's eyelids twitched. Miss Pei, are you going to participate? Su Yu asked excitedly and teased. However, Miss Pei has so many friends. You should play this kind of game often, right? Then haven't I met my match? Bai Yunj looked at him with a faint smile. She had long been unhappy that Su Yu had asked Huashidu out for no reason. Mr. Su, you're too polite. How can I compare to your skills that you exchanged for your height? Su Yu, who had been exposed again, was speechless. What did she mean? She couldn't bear to scold that person and vented her anger on him. In the end, Bai Yunj still participated, although her gaze was always on Huashidu. Today Bai Yunj's luck wasn't very good. She had drawn a dare in the first round. It was for Bai Yunj to sing a song with someone of the opposite sex. Bai Yunj had just frowned when Su Yu felt the cold gaze of the people around Bai Yunj sweeping over him. Same sex. I'm wrong. Same sex. Su Yu immediately admitted defeat. He couldn't help but curse in his heart. He thought that Master Du would be able to hold on for at least a few days. He didn't expect the slap to come so quickly. I'll drink. Bai Yunj was not in the mood to sing, so she picked up the glass of wine and drank it in one gulp. Then continue. Su Yu's eyelids twitched. He didn't expect Bai Yunj to drink such a high alcohol content glass without blushing. Midway, Bai Yunj seemed to be coaxing a certain someone the entire time. The two of them were whispering to each other, as if no one else was around. Bei Yunj didn't notice that one of the women sneered and said in a strange tone, "It's really rare to see someone so attached." As soon as she finished speaking, Suyu could already feel the impact of these words. He looked at Huashidu nervously. However, he didn't expect that the next person to be drawn would be Huashidu. The game requirement. Both of them eat a chocolate bar. The atmosphere was cold. Bei Yunj pursed her lips when she saw Huashidu actually reach out and casually pick up a chocolate bar. She was one step faster and held his hand. Huashidu. Chapter 1087. The man looked up and met her eyes. Even the light in the depths of his eyes was hidden. "You're not letting go?" Bei Yunj had been coaxing him for a long time, but when she heard such a casual sentence, she was instantly angered. Very soon, Bei Yunj let go of his hand. She did not intend to continue serving this man. Her beautiful eyes curved. "All right then, Mr. Hua, take your time." With that said, Bei Yunj casually took a few chocolate bars from his hand and took a bite of the chocolate bar. "The chocolate tastes good." With that said, Suyu saw that Bei Yunj really dared to take a few chocolate bars. Without looking at her, he turned around and walked towards the door. Suyu had already started to imagine how dark Huashida's expression would be, but then no one expected it. The man suddenly grabbed Bei Yunj's wrist and pulled her back. Before Bei Yunj could react, she looked up. The man suddenly bent down and gently bit the chocolate bar in her mouth. Bei Yunj's body froze. The few chocolate bars in her hand were crushed and fell to the ground. Just as she regained her senses, Bei Yunj suddenly bumped into the man's dark gaze. Faced with such a situation, Bei Yunj's experience was zero, but the man was like a natural hunter. Faced with Bei Yunj's stiffness and absent-mindedness, he suddenly pressed her palm neither lightly nor heavily, as if he was punishing her, but also as if he was reminding her to focus. He bit the chocolate bar an inch closer, and Bei Yunj could feel that the aggressive aura was far more than that. Along with that, the man's fingers caressed her palm, intentionally or unintentionally, making her feel hot all over. After regaining her senses again, Bei Yunj's ears turned hot from the man's fixed gaze. She subconsciously wanted to retreat. However, the man quickly grabbed the back of her neck with one hand, not giving her any chance to retreat. At this moment, when Bei Yunj looked up again, the man was already close to her. His breath mingled ambiguously, and his lips seemed to be close enough to touch hers, however. The man did not get any closer to bite this most ambiguous game-ending point. Instead, he gently pinched the back of the girl's neck, which made Bei Yunj weak all over. She subconsciously understood his coaxing and hinting. Without hesitation, she approached him in a reckless and naive manner, and gently bit into the last bit of biscuit. Her lips also lightly touched the man's warm, thin lips. The man let out a low laugh of pleasure from his throat. He smoothed the hair on the back of her head. "Good girl." 3 seconds later, Bei Yunj licked her lips as if she hadn't had enough, but she happened to notice the gazes around her. He was too careless. She was so seduced by the D*MN man that she forgot about the onlookers around her. At this moment, no one dared to kick up a fuss. After all, the main character was the Hua family. Suyu glanced at the woman who had just spoken ill of Bei Yunj. His expression was ugly. Then he looked at Huashidu and could not help but laugh. This person had been completely defeated. It was just a casual remark, yet he took it so seriously. "I'm going out to take a breather." Even Bei Yunj could not ignore the meaningful gazes on the scene. After Bei Yunj left, someone drank too much and teased. "Master Du will be pulled down from his pedestal one day? Aren't you afraid of being a hero's mound?" These words were too bold, so much so that everyone was afraid of Huashida's reaction. But they did not want to. The man actually answered. Chapter 1088. However, it seemed like he was deliberately saying it for someone to hear. The man curled his lips, picked up the cigarette on the ashtray, and tapped the ash lightly. His peach blossom eyes curled up lazily and bewitchingly. "I'll gladly endure the hardship under your skirt." As soon as he finished speaking, everyone present fell silent, and could not recover from their shock for a long time. This sentence gave people a strong sense of shock. Who would have thought that there would be someone who could make the Hua family's man willing to work for her? At this moment, The girl who had been gossiping earlier had turned completely pale. Her fingers were clenched tightly on the back of her other hand. There were too many people in the industry who admired Hoshidu, but everyone knew that this man was unattainable. No one could pull him down from his pedestal. Hence, like others, she quickly dismissed the idea. However, she did not expect to see a beautiful girl being so bold as to be intimate with Hoshidu today. Although the girl was coaxing him, she could tell that Hoshidu treated Bei Yunji differently. That was why she could not help but say those words. She was indignant. However, she was timid and did not dare to approach such an unreachable man. And now, the unreachable man in everyone's eyes was willing to bow down to another woman in front of everyone. The game didn't continue either. Bei Yunji sat at the bar counter. She did not notice why there were fewer and fewer people in the bar before midnight. She leaned her head with one hand and closed her eyes sleepily. Outside the glass window, Yu Jilin had not left yet. He sat in the driver's seat and watched as Bei Yunji fell asleep bit by bit. His heart skipped a beat, and he got out of the car. He did not know why, but when he saw Bei Yunji alone in the bar, he wanted to wait outside the bar. At the entrance of the bar, just as he pushed open the door, he looked up and saw a handsome man sitting beside Bei Yunji. It was the man in the private room. Hoshidu glanced at the wine bottle beside Bei Yunji and frowned. He then looked up at Sung Su. Is this wine? Bei Yunji had a good tolerance for alcohol, and he had never seen her drunk. Sung Su immediately said, It's Dr. Luo. Dr. Luo said that he wanted to give Miss Pei a dose of medicine. Luo Xia's original words were to quickly give Bei Yunji the medicine. But Sung Su didn't have the guts. He could only secretly whisper into the wine. The man was silent. What do you think is the use of drugs mixed in wine? Sung Su was so anxious that he stuttered. Master, do I? How could he have thought so much? He couldn't just ask Bei Yunji if she wanted some medicine, right? Moreover, Miss Pei didn't know that Master Du knew about her illness. Therefore, when he saw that today was a good opportunity, he immediately acted. Hoshidu glanced at him indifferently and threw the wine bottle away. Sung Su was also pulled away by Zhou. Hoshidu sat beside Bei Yunji. Seeing that the young lady looked good when she was sleeping, he couldn't help but smile. But soon he remembered that Bei Yunji had been chatting happily with a strange man in this exact spot. Bei Yunji. The man shouted casually. Bei Yunji didn't know if it was a reflex response. She grunted in a nasal voice and didn't wake up. The man reached out and touched her head. He asked unhurriedly, Did you have fun with others today? Bei Yunji almost fell down along with Hoshida's hand. You came to the bar alone with an unfamiliar man. The man deliberately pinched Bei Yunji's face childishly and said calmly, You need to be taught a lesson. End of this chapter. Chapter 1089. Bei Yunji's eyes flickered slightly as she glanced at this computing tutor. It's me. The tutor's smile froze and he looked at Su Jihuan and the rest. It was obvious that Bei Yunji looked the youngest in this team. It's really you? The moment the tutor finished asking, Wang Huiying's slightly dark expression returned to normal. Wang Huiying suddenly said, Miss Pei is very capable. You fixed the bugs in the 3rd to 9th battle zones, right? She continued, But aren't you violating the competition rules by doing this? The other contestants can't get in to get points. With that said, everyone's eyes were focused on Bei Yunji. It's a loophole in her cultivation? No wonder there are no loopholes at all. Damn, so she didn't even enter the 3rd battle zone. Isn't this too unfair? If she fixed the loopholes, how are we going to get points? That's right. Teacher, she's cheating. The moment everyone thought of Bei Yunji's points, their mentality became twisted. They gritted their teeth in anger. At this moment, Su Jihuan said angrily, Wang Huiying, don't slander me. Yunji clearly left a loophole. The rest of the people laughed coldly. Left a loophole? Alright, where is the loophole? Why can't anyone enter? Now everyone suspected that Bei Yunji was in the battle zone herself, so she simply fixed all the bugs. The computing tutor also frowned. After exchanging glances with the other tutors, he asked Bei Yunji, You left a bug? Bei Yunji drank her soda and said slowly, I left 3 bugs in each battle zone. In fact, starting from the third battle zone, they only prepared 2 bugs in each battle zone. Who are you lying to? Teacher, since she's stubborn, let her attack it herself. The girl behind Wang Huiying laughed coldly. If she can't attack it, let her get out of the competition. No, their team is in the same team. They have to withdraw from the competition. Hu Chengzhong and Bian Xiaotan, who had left Bei Yunzhi's team previously, sounded even more unfriendly. That's right. So what if she fixed it? Who are you lying to? The tutor furrowed his eyebrows. Actually, no matter what, he didn't want to miss this good seedling. Even if Bei Yunzhi lied in public. However, just as the tutor was about to say something, Bei Yunzhi's smile did not reach her eyes. Why? If I go in, will you all get lost? You. The girl behind Wang Huiying gritted her teeth and sneered. Heh, so be it. Elder Ma, you heard it too. She said it herself. Bei Yunzhi pursed her lips and walked over to the computer without waiting for her supervisor to say anything. The sound of the keyboard attracted everyone's attention. But not long after, everyone saw the interface open. What's going on? 1-2. The person beside him counted the number of people and couldn't control his volume. 7 battle zones opened at the same time? The instructor's expression also changed. He looked at Bei Yunzhi in disbelief. Did this girl really leave a bug? A computer player murmured. I remember that it's possible to fix bugs in the war zone in the international competition, as long as the player leaves clues. So, Bei Yunzhi didn't break the rules. However, it wasn't that difficult for top players like them to find bugs in normal competitions. But Bei Yunzhi's bug was not even discovered by the tutor. This time, the girl beside Wang Huiying turned pale and her voice trembled. How is this possible? Have you thought about how you're going to get lost? Her lazy and smiling voice had a hint of hostility. P.S. Good night. End of chapter. Chapter 1090. Who knew? The man slowly retracted his gaze and denied it lazily. No. Bei Yunzhi. Before preparing to go to the hospital for a physical examination, Bei Yunzhi finished her breakfast and sat under Huoshida's sofa to read documents. After the weather turned cold, the carpet on the floor was replaced by a Persian carpet. Bei Yunzhi preferred to lean on the coffee table with one hand and glance at the man's side profile out of habit. After a while, Bei Yunzhi heard Huoshida talking to someone on the phone. The other party should be an older elder. Before hanging up the phone, he happily introduced his niece who had returned from studying overseas to Huoshida. Huoshida blocked him without revealing anything. He only said that he had a delicate girl at home, and was not in the mood to care about others. He did not name him, but the other party was a smart person and quickly understood what Huoshida meant. It turned out that this person from the Huo family was already hiding a mistress. You're not going to continue reading? Huoshida saw the little girl staring at him. I'm done. Bei Yunzhi leaned her head against the sofa, her black hair falling loosely. As usual, she played with the man's slender fingers in boredom. Huoshida was also used to Bei Yunzhi scratching his palm a few times like a cat when she had nothing to do. She also played happily. Even Sung Su was numb when he saw this scene. Bei Yunzhi suddenly asked, Brother, do you have a drinking session today? She heard it over the phone just now. Yes, I'll be back later. Huoshida did not even look up. As soon as he finished speaking, there was no sound in the living room. Bei Yunzhi looked at Huoshida's serious side profile. When the man was working, his sleeves were also rolled up elegantly, revealing his beautifully muscled forearms. His pale-colored pupils were less frivolous, but they were even more attractive. After a while, Huoshida felt an itch on the back of his hand. He turned around and did not know what the little girl was doodling on his hand. However, he did not resist. He just wanted her to be happy. It was only when Huoshida finished reading all the information and left with Sung Su that he remembered what he was doing. Huoshida looked down and saw that Bei Yunzhi had drawn a watch on his wrist. Sung Su was also caught off guard when he saw Bei Yunzhi's masterpiece. Miss Pei was as brave as ever. There was no one more arrogant than Miss Pei. And then, what made Sung Su's eyelids twitch wildly was that the man who had been carelessly doodled on his hand was not angry at all. Instead, he suddenly laughed. Even Sung Su could sense the pleasure in the man's chuckle. Master, do you? Sung-soo gradually could not understand Huashida's emotional fluctuations. Huashidu slowly untied the expensive watch in his hand and threw it into the groove of the car door. When they were in the car, she would admire her child's drawing skills from time to time. Sung-soo. It was really over. Miss Pei must have cast a goose spell on Master Du at the drinking party. The man didn't bother to hide the watch on his wrist. Everyone who saw it had the same question in their minds. Who had the guts to draw a watch on Master Du's hand? Shidu, your watch. One of them was an uncle who had taken care of Huashidu in the past. Everyone's gaze landed on Huashidu. Who knew? This was the first time they saw it today. Huashida's lips curled up. Even his tone was indulgent. Someone at home reminded me to go home on time. At this moment, Sung-soo realized that the time on the clock was exactly 10:30. Chapter 1091. Elder Ma's anger made the entire place fall into silence. But in the next moment, Su Jihuan muttered beside Bei Yunj, "Yunj, don't think too much. There's a reason why they hate people who come from computing backgrounds." The former heir of Confederation 191 was abducted by someone who dabbled in computing. These words instantly enraged Elder Ma, Su Jihuan. It was not hard to suspect that if Su Jihuan wasn't from the Su family, he would definitely be killed by Confederation 191. It was simply a slap to the face of Confederation 191. I didn't say anything wrong. Su Jihuan did not admit defeat, and his tone was filled with disdain. At the mention of the former heir, Wang Huiying's expression did not look too good either. As for the rest of the people present, they actually did not know much about the internal situation of Confederation 191, especially these old matters that had been hidden by Confederation 191 in the early years. In the end, Bei Yunj's team was the first to be taken away. On the way, Bei Yunj asked casually, "What's the name of the former heir of Confederation 191? Shernani." After Su Jihuan finished speaking, he realized that something was wrong and immediately said, "Yunj, it's better not to mention this. They don't know your identity." Bei Yunj was silent for a moment. "Then what's the name of that computing student?" "I'm not sure. Anyway, he should be a teacher hired by Confederation 191, right? I heard that he's from our country." Hearing this, Bei Yunj felt that this person was most likely Nani. Bei Yunj was speechless. No wonder he hated computing so much. If the people from Confederation 191 knew that Bei Yunj was Nani's disciple, and was even sent here to look for information, they would probably die on the spot from anger. So, Wang Huiying is sure Nani's junior? Bei Yunj's eyes darkened slightly. Of course not. Shernani is the former heir of Confederation 191, and Wang Huiying's father, Wang Hui, suddenly passed away before he married Shernani. Perhaps the heavens are jealous of talent. After Su Jihuan sighed, he laughed coldly. Later, Wang Hui won the position of the heir of Confederation 191 with the excuse of loving his deceased wife deeply. However, after so many years, the Shi family did not let him inherit the laboratory. Su Jihuan's eyes were filled with ridicule. Love his deceased wife? What a joke. Wang Huiying's mother was the adopted daughter of the Shi family, a woman who climbed into her brother-in-law's bed. Suddenly, the tutor behind her walked over with a dark face. "Su Jihuan, what are you talking about now?" Su Jihuan shrugged and didn't say anything more. On the way, Bei Yunj glanced at Su Jihuan. "Do you like Shernani a lot?" "Shernani is a rare talent." Su Jihuan lowered her head. "It's just a pity that such a person has to have her blood sucked out by a despicable father and daughter after death." Every time she heard someone call Wang Huiying Little Shernani, she couldn't help but feel nauseous. How could there be such a shameless person in this world? Bei Yunj was deep in thought. The next day, after passing the pre-competition assessment, classes began. "Yunj, do you have a pen and paper?" "I didn't bring," Su Jihuan said guiltily. "Bei Yunj." Bei Yunj immediately threw the notebook that Zhou Yu had given her to Su Jihuan. Bei Yunj was not interested in listening to such simple content repeatedly. Instead, she took the iPad and tried to enter the library system of Confederation 191. "Bei Yunj, what are you doing?" The tutor, who had been greeted by Wang Huiying a long time ago, immediately screamed when she saw Bei Yunji's distraction. Am I too simple, or do you know everything? Why are you so arrogant? End of this chapter. Chapter 1092. Bei Yunji's eyelids twitched as she looked up at him. What are you looking at? Inexplicably, the tutor felt goosebumps all over his body from Bei Yunji's stare. But then he said sternly, Confederation 191 doesn't need arrogant contestants. Go to the library right now and sort out the information. If you don't go, you can withdraw from the competition now. Su Jihuan panicked when she heard this. According to Bei Yunji's temper, she definitely wouldn't keep her. But then, Bei Yunji stood up and raised her eyebrows lazily. Teacher, how many days can I tidy up? The tutor's face turned green with anger. In the future, go to the library for my classes. I don't want to see you in the classroom again. The corners of Bei Yunji's lips curled up as she lazily picked up the iPad. Sure. Before she left, Bei Yunji considerately closed the classroom door. The contestants. Was this person crazy? What the tutor was talking about now was probably related to the competition later. It was equivalent to the scope of the exam. She really went to the library to sort out the information? She's really from a computer science background. She doesn't understand physics. Wang Man gloated. Wang Huiying smiled faintly. It's normal. Not everyone has the energy to do two scientific research directions at the same time. Yeah, she's not as good as you, Huiying. Huiying, you're a real genius. Wang Man said enviously. Then she smiled to vent her anger. By the way, if the old monster in the library is still there, Bei Yunji would probably be scared half to death. When Wang Huiying heard that person, coldness flashed through her eyes. In Confederation 191, everyone respectfully called her Mississippi. Only that old monster didn't know how to appreciate favors. Sooner or later, she would drive that old monster out. The library in Confederation 191 was not like the library in Yincheng. It had a bright dome and a spiral staircase that reached the top. There were also countless rare books in the library. Bei Yunji looked around and saw a transparent elevator. It should go straight to the top of the library. Not long after, Bei Yunji flipped through a few books on the first floor and went up to the second floor. About half an hour later, Bei Yunji arrived at the fifth floor. There was a hint of excitement in his eyes. Suddenly, a hoarse and unpleasant voice rang out from behind him. What are you doing? Bei Yunji turned around and saw an old man whose face was burned beyond recognition. His back was hunched, and there was not much gray hair left on his head. Even his scalp was faintly burned, and his gaze gave people a gloomy and uncomfortable feeling. Let me organize the information. Bei Yunji slowly closed the book. You are lying. Who are you? The old man's voice was hoarse and unpleasant to the ears. His gloomy eyes were like those of a ferocious ghost. In fact, it was very easy for people to panic. I'm a trainee. I didn't listen to the lecture, and was chased here by my teacher. Bei Yunji's eyes fell on the thing in his hand. Are you repairing books? The old monster froze. It's none of your business. Old mister, this thing must have been repaired for a long time, right? Actually, I can help you. Bei Yunji's words made the old monster sneer. You? I've repaired it. Can I have a look at this book? Bei Yunji picked up the book in his hand. The old monster looked at it and unconsciously narrowed his eyes. Can you really understand this book? It's a bit interesting, but the description is quite immature. Bei Yunji said unhurriedly. It's a book from more than 20 years ago, right? End of chapter. Chapter 1093. The old monster raised his head abruptly and stared at Bei Yunji. After a long time he said, What's your relationship with Confederation 191? Bei Yunji's lips curled into a smile that did not reach her eyes. Nothing. The old monster was silent for a moment before turning to leave. Come with me. Walking downstairs, Bei Yunji came to a place that looked like a front desk. She also saw some tools to repair books inside. If you can't fix it, I'll get the people from Confederation 191 to chase you out. The old monster was very heartless. Bei Yunji raised her eyebrows and sat to the side to put on her gloves. She said slowly, I didn't say that I could restore this book. but I can restore the contents of the book. You. After being deceived, the old monster's eyes widened in anger. What's so important about a book? The original owner wants to preserve the contents of this book more. After Bei Yunj put on her thin glasses, she slowly flipped through the old book. The old monster was stunned when he saw Bei Yunj write down the missing content of the book bit by bit. Can you really understand this book? Yes. The old monster continued to ask, Are you a physics student? I'm a computer science student. When the old monster heard this, he was first stunned, then suppressed his anger. There aren't many good people who study computer science. Bei Yunj. Fine. As Bei Yunj wrote the information, she said leisurely, Then do you want me to find a few good people who study physics to help you restore the contents of the book? The old monster. It was not that he had not tried, but in the entire Confederation 191, only this girl in front of him could restore Miss Nan Yi's book. Little girl, are you really a computer science student? The old monster remembered that Miss Nan Yi was in her 30s when she wrote this book. But this little girl looked to be at most 20 years old, and she was a computer science student? Yes. Does the author of this book have any other books? Bei Yunj continued. I want to understand her other books so that I can be more accurate. When the old monster heard this, he looked suspiciously at Bei Yunj's restored content. But not long after, his turbid eyes shook. The content that this girl had restored was actually the same as what Miss Nan Yi had written back then? The old monster suddenly looked at Bei Yunj. This little girl's talent was too terrifying. Even Miss Nan Yi couldn't compare to her. But if Miss Nan Yi was still alive, she would definitely want to take this girl as her disciple and pass down her lifetime's research. The old monster's eyes dimmed for a moment, but soon he suddenly raised his head and said hoarsely, Little girl, are you willing to take a dead man as your master? Bei Yunj's hands trembled. What kind of question is this? Soon Bei Yunj said, Old mister, stop being so superstitious. When she was alive, she always wanted to find a talented disciple. I want to help her fulfill her long-cherished wish. Then please consider Wang Huiying. Although Bei Yunj felt that the author's book was interesting, she also had a master. But unexpectedly, when the old monster heard this, his tone was full of sarcasm. How can she be worthy of being Miss Nan Yi's disciple? She's just the product of a genetic experiment. Bei Yunj looked up at him. Genetic experiment? The old monster laughed. Little girl, you haven't heard of it, right? That girl is just an experiment. She's different from someone like you, who is favored by God. P.S. Good night. End of chapter. Chapter 1094. Bei Yunj didn't say anything. She just continued to read the book. Although genetic experiments were rare, Bei Yunj had met a living example in her previous life. She just didn't expect to see it again in this life. In her previous life, Bei Yunj's mother, Meng Liang, had a rival since they were in school. Later, she became Meng Liang's colleague, Professor Zhu of genetics. Professor Zhu loved to compete with Meng Ying since she was young. However, she had never won. What made Professor Zhu's mentality even more twisted was that Meng Liang was naughty and mischievous when she was young. She didn't focus on her studies, but every time, her grades would be slightly higher than hers. This made Professor Zhu strongly believe that it was because Meng Liang was smarter than her. Therefore, Professor Zhu had a crazy idea. She and her husband secretly conducted a genetic experiment. The subject of the experiment was her own daughter. She wanted her daughter to be a genius. Since she couldn't beat Meng Liang, her daughter must beat Meng Liang's child for her. When Professor Zhu's daughter was 3 years old, she was told that her daughter was a 1-in-a-million genius. Professor Zhu was so excited that she immediately arranged for her daughter and Bei Yunj to enter kindergarten at the same time. She couldn't wait to see how her daughter beat Meng Liang's daughter. However, what she didn't expect was that Bei Yunj was much more talented than Meng Liang. She learned to read at the age of 2. Not only was she sensitive to numbers, but she also inherited her grandfather's skills in music. She could distinguish the piano keys just by listening to the sound. Later on, no matter how Professor Zhu trained her genius daughter, she was still inferior to Bei Yunj. This made Professor Zhu feel bitter and resentful. She also complained and scolded her daughter. A few years later, Professor Zhu realized that there was a serious problem with her genetic experiment. Her daughter would age faster than ordinary people. She would start to have wrinkles at the age of 14 or 15. Her testosterone levels would be out of whack, and her immune system would be severely weakened. She would often be hospitalized. This was the after effect of the genetic experiment. Professor Zhu started to regret it. Compared to her daughter being outstanding and one in a million, she wanted her daughter to live a long life. Therefore, Professor Zhu started to think of ways to fix everything. However, fate was always in the cycle of karma. When Professor Zhu's daughter found out that she was just a product of her mother's genetic experiment, she chose to jump off a building and end her life. Bei Yunji's eyes darkened. The pen in her hand paused, and a black dot appeared on the tip of the pen. What are you thinking about? Focus. The old monster reminded him anxiously. Bei Yunji lazily came back to her senses and continued to write. You don't seem to be interested in genetic experiments, the old monster suddenly said. He chuckled again. Such a special experiment can greatly improve the progress of human society. Bei Yunji's bright eyes were calm. She said casually, shouldn't a researcher have a sense of awe? Humans created civilization, so they should respect life. The old monster was stunned. Not long after, he slowly said, little girl, someone taught you very well. Even though he was in the world's top laboratory, he had never heard anyone say such words. Little girl, are you really unwilling to be Miss Nanyi's disciple? The old monster asked insistently. His eyes were fixed on her. What if I can let you inherit Confederation 191? Bei Yunji's eyebrows twitched. She glanced at him. Sorry, I already have a master. End of chapter. Chapter 1095. The old monster frowned unhappily. He didn't expect Bei Yunji to be so tactless. Could it be that your master can compare to Miss Nani? Bei Yunji. Before getting the information, Bei Yunji didn't intend to tell anyone that she was Nani's disciple. Otherwise, she might be chased out. What's your name? The old monster asked. Bei Yunji. The old monster was silent for a moment. My name is Oz. Bei Yunji couldn't help but ask, how did Nani die? Oz's gloomy voice was hoarse and unpleasant. This has nothing to do with you. Okay. Bei Yunji flipped through the little content and replied lazily, I can finish repairing this book in about a week. You can't take these books out. Oz looked like he was guarding against a thief, his eyes wary. Okay. Bei Yunji just curled her lips. Then can I flip through the books here? Oz. Up to you. Then can I play on your computer for a while? Oz. Didn't this person think that he was being insatiable? Suddenly, a voice sounded from the door. Oz. Oz's eyes darkened and he left after saying that. You can play on the computer here, but don't make any sound. Bei Yunji raised her eyebrows and glanced at the black figure not far away. She had no interest in prying into other people's privacy. In the library's rest area. Is that your disciple? After so many years, you're finally willing to accept a disciple? The person who came had white hair, but he was in good spirits. She's not. Oz stretched out his skinny hand and used his long sharp nails to poke at the wick. He could clearly hear the sizzling sound of something burning, but he didn't seem to be in pain at all. The white-haired old man wanted to say something but hesitated. Looking at Oz's gloomy appearance, he also didn't feel good. Back then, in Nani's words, Oz was an unforgettable handsome young man. But now, because of Nani, he had become like this. Then why are you suddenly willing to interact with others? The white-haired old man laughed. Oz's tone was cold. You'll have to ask your people. A student who doesn't listen in class actually rushed to me. The white-haired old man. So she was a student from the training camp. I'll get someone to bring her back later. As soon as the white-haired old man finished speaking, Oz interrupted him. There's no need. She's not that annoying. Hearing this, the white-haired old man was suddenly interested in that student. After so many years, Oz's personality has become more and more withdrawn, and almost no one can enter his eyes. He wasn't averse to interact with strangers? Then we'll leave her in our laboratory? The white-haired old man smiled. Why are you looking for me? Oz asked impatiently. As soon as he finished speaking, the atmosphere, there was a moment. I promise Wang Hui that as long as Wang Huiying can get first place in this year's training camp, I will relinquish my authority. In an instant, Oz slammed the table and stood up. His ugly face was ferocious and his hoarse voice was gloomy. What did you say? Yuns BTSS. STS, you want to let a person who killed your daughter take over Confederation 191? Oz, I'll say it again. Don't spout nonsense if you don't have evidence. Master Shi pursed his lips. Nani is dead. Confederation 191 needs a new successor. Although Wang Hui isn't qualified, Wang Huiying is a 1 in a million talent. Moreover, Wang Huiying's mother is also a member of the Shi family. End of chapter. Chapter 1096. Hearing this, Oz smiled. I was wondering how a despicable person like Wang Hui would dare to get that adopted daughter pregnant. It turns out that he had calculated that you would give up your power because of this relationship. I've already made a decision. I'm just informing you now. The head of the Shi family was silent for a moment before he looked deeply at Oz. Confederation 191 is already declining. Wang Hui has also pressured me for a long time. If I don't give up my power, he will take away some of the core researchers and Wang Huiying. Oz, the laboratory needs a genius like Wang Huiying. Her future will bring Confederation 191 back to its peak. But she's just a test subject. Oz was furious. The head of the Shi family's tone was calm. But you have to admit that only Wang Huiying can inherit Nani's mantle. Unless you can find someone more suitable than Wang Huiying. Otherwise, once this competition is over, I'll give up my power. With that said, the head of the Shi family turned and left. Oz's expression was terrible. Dad, why are you here personally? Wang Huiying asked in surprise when she saw Wang Hui. Wang Hui smiled and said, Huiying, Dad has something to talk to you about. Wang Huiying said, Dad, tell me. No matter what, you have to get first place in this competition. Wang Hui's tone was unprecedentedly excited. Huiying, your dad's hope. As long as you can get first place in the training camp, your grandfather will completely give up his power to me. I've been waiting for this day for too many years. You mustn't disappoint, Dad. Wang Huiying's tone was weak. Don't worry, Dad. How many times have I gotten first place since I was young? She said disdainfully. Grandpa should have given up his power a long time ago. Compared to my mother, he has always liked his biological daughter, Nani. He has never admitted my identity to the public. Huiying, as long as you can win, you will be the one and only elder young miss of Confederation 191. Wang Hui's eyes were determined. When the time comes, Confederation 191 will be ours. A few days passed. In the classroom. Yunj, look at the results of our competition this time. It's almost done. Su Jihuan grabbed Bei Yunj's hand and said excitedly, when the time comes, we might be able to enter the top 5. Pei Yunj raised an eyebrow and walked toward Su Jihuan. She found that these 3 people's standards were indeed not bad. Especially that Tang Yi. You don't need me to do anything? Bei Yunj asked. Su Jihuan patted his chest. No need, you can just lie down and win. Bei Yunj smiled. Okay. She didn't plan to get a good ranking. She just wanted to get the information as soon as possible. Bei Yunj and Tang Yi analyzed their semi-finished products and made a few suggestions before returning to the library. On the other hand, Tang Yi could clearly feel that Pei Yunj's suggestion was more valuable than the previous mentor's suggestion. The library. Seeing Bei Yunj walking around in front of him every day, Oz couldn't help but ask, aren't you a contestant? Why don't you go to the competition? My teammates said that I can just lie down and win. After Bei Yunj finished repairing the books, he had been flipping through the books on the 4th and 5th floors. He didn't care about the competition at all. Oz. He was really crazy. At first, he actually thought that she could win against Wang Huiying. However, when Oz went downstairs angrily and wanted to check the information of the other contestants, Bei Yunj suddenly received a call. Yunj, come quickly. Something happened. Su Jihuan was so anxious that she was about to cry. There's actually a written test in the second round of the competition. But there's less than an hour before the deadline. End of this chapter. Chapter 1097. What written test? Baiyunj paused. I don't know either. No one informed us about this at all. How could this be? Su Jihuan was extremely anxious. I heard from the other teams that their team spent an entire day on the written test alone. Besides, the results of the written test account for 40% of the total results. With that said, Baiyunj heard Su Jihuan talking to Tang Yi softly, and thought that she wouldn't be able to hear her. Brother Yi, it doesn't matter if Yunj knows about this or not. Why don't we let her continue playing? Anyway, she's a computing contestant and can't help. Baiyunj was speechless. Tang Ye's eyelid twitched, and he quickly took the phone. Yunj, why don't you come over and we'll do it together? Send me a website address first. Baiyunj walked to the front desk, turned on the computer, and logged into the written test website. She found that there were about 300 questions. Yunj, these questions are quite difficult. Let's do it together. Before Tang Yi could finish speaking, Baiyunj's eyes darkened and she immediately said, It's too late. I'll do these questions. You guys continue to complete the report. With that said, Baiyunj hung up the call. On the other hand, Su Jihuan regained her senses and felt suffocated. Brother Yi, are we really letting Master Pei do this alone? This written test accounts for 40% of the results. If the results of the written test were bad, they might be eliminated in the second round. Tang Yi pursed his lips and could only be firm in the end. Let's go and complete the report first. But Su Jihuan wanted to say something but hesitated. In the end, she could only lower her head and sigh dejectedly. This time they were finished. The second round of the written test? Oz glanced at Baiyunj and then at his watch. There's only 50 minutes left. There are nearly 300 questions. How did you finish it? Before he could finish asking. In the next moment, he saw Baiyunj staring at the screen with all her attention. The speed at which she was doing the questions was shocking. The speed at which she was doing the questions did not seem like she was doing it seriously. Could it be that this lass was writing blindly? Oz frowned and walked behind Baiyunj to watch. However, before he could even finish reading the questions, Baiyunj would move the keyboard and erase the questions. Oz's eyes hurt, and he could only step aside to observe Baiyunj. If Baiyunj had been working on the questions seriously, she wouldn't have been able to concentrate on the questions for an hour. But after more than half an hour, Oz barely saw Baiyunj move. Her eyes were only fixed on the screen. Oz's eyes were dim and inexplicably lost. That's true. How could he finish the Confederation 191 written test in 50 minutes? No one else would be able to do this. 50 minutes later, Baiyunj also finished answering the questions and submitted her written answers in the last 3 minutes. She unconsciously heaved a sigh of relief. She closed her eyes and lowered her head, her fingers slowly massaging the back of her neck. Suddenly, Oz's gloating voice sounded. It seems that once the results come out, you'll have to leave Confederate 191. Before Baiyunj could speak, she saw a text message from Su Jihuan. Su Jihuan, Master Pei, are you done? How did it go? When Baiyunj saw it, she raised her eyebrows lazily. Oz, let's make a bet. Oz asked, what are we betting on? Let's bet on whether our team can get into the top 3. Baiyunj's lips curved as she picked up her phone. Soon, Su Jihuan received the message. There's no choice. We can only rely on you guys. Su Jihuan. End of chapter. Chapter 1098. Su Jihuan's mind suddenly went blank. We're done for. What do you think? Du Chaoye and Tang Ye's eyes fell on it. Su Jihuan smiled stiffly. Maybe we can only take a gamble. Tang Yi and Du Chaoye. After that bet, Oz found that Baiyunj had been reading on the 6th floor for 3 consecutive days. Oz couldn't help but ask, didn't you want to get into the top 3? Why are you holed up here? They can do it. Baiyunj turned a page and leaned lazily on the floor. Oz, don't you have a cushion or something? The floor is a bit hard. Oz's face darkened. I don't have time to serve you like an ancestor. Fortunately, he didn't let this girl become Miss Nani's disciple. Although this girl was talented, she was too confident. Sooner or later, she would suffer a big loss. Us couldn't help but mock. Little girl, don't cry when you lose. Time passed. It was finally the day of the announcement of the results. Bai Yunj had just sat down when she realized that Su Jihuan and the other two had dark circles under their eyes. Her eyelids twitched. What are you guys doing? Su Jihuan was still sleepy and her eyes were dull. Brother Yi insisted that we change according to your suggestions, so we stayed up all night for 2 days. Bai Yunj raised her eyebrows. She didn't expect them to work so hard. This is the semifinals. Only 9 teams will advance. Su Jihuan clutched her little heart and continued. I hope we're lucky and can advance. 9th is fine too. At this moment, Wang Huiying, who came in, happened to hear Su Jihuan's words. Her lips curled and a trace of slyness and ridicule flashed across her eyes. A few days ago, she happened to meet the instructor in charge of the written exam and asked her to help spread the news of the written exam to all the teams. Therefore, in order to get Su Jihuan and Bai Yunj out of the competition early, she specially sent someone to inform Su Jihuan and the others on the last day. She just wanted to see Su Jihuan and the others powerless and have their willpower collapse. The team member beside Wang Huiying laughed. I heard that Su Jihuan's team only found out about the written exam in the last hour of the written exam. It seemed that no matter how well they did, they might not be able to enter the top 9. Originally, I was worried that they would be a threat to us. When Wang Huiying heard the last sentence, her eyes darkened. She smiled and turned her head. Qi, do you think anyone can be compared to me? Xing Qi smiled stiffly. No, suddenly. There was a commotion in the crowd. Look, isn't that the head of the Shi family from Confederate 191? My goodness, Patriarch Shi is here in person? Everyone was shocked, but they soon guessed the reason. Wang Huiying was the heir's daughter and the little Shi Nani of Confederation 191. Master Shi was probably here to see Wang Huiying take first place. Wang Huiying also straightened her back and couldn't help but smile. She had been waiting for this day for too long. Patriarch Shi is finally blind? He actually came to watch Wang Huiying's competition. Su Jihuan couldn't believe it. Next, Patriarch Shi smiled and said, Thank you all for coming to participate in the competition. I'm just here to observe the competition today, so don't worry. After saying this, coincidentally, the tutor arrived late and was still panting. What's going on? Why is a tutor late? Patriarch Shi frowned. I'm not. The tutor's expression was ugly and he didn't know what to say. But when he thought of the results of the team he had just run back to check, he couldn't help but feel his scalp go numb. End of chapter. Chapter 1099. Hurry up and announce the results of the competition. Patriarch Shi frowned. The mentor wanted to say something but stopped. He couldn't help but glance at Wang Huiying. But before he could announce the rankings, the old man next to him snatched his report card. Old Han, what are you waiting for? Let me do it. Mentor Han's face darkened. Before he could speak, he was pushed aside by the old man. I'm sure everyone can feel the difficulty of this competition. There's no other way. There are so many excellent contestants this year. We have to lower the score. The old man said happily. Otherwise, if the gap isn't big, you won't be satisfied if you lose, right? The contestants. They finally understood. This was to lower the score for Wang Huiying's team, so they suffered along with them. Wang Huiying looked helpless. No wonder the written test is so difficult. It's Grandpa Wu's doing again. You really didn't leave me a way out. Elder Crow also smiled. If Littling can't do it, who else can? Your team is the only one with more than 30 points in the written test. Grandpa Wu is widening the gap for you. The audience was in heated discussion. What? The only one with more than 30 points? Wang Huiying is too unbelievable. Elder Crow began to announce. In this competition, a total of 9 teams have advanced to the finals. The 9th place will be announced. At this moment, only Mentor Han closed his eyes. He couldn't face this scene. No way? Su Jihuan almost blacked out. Are they deliberately provoking us? Bai Yunj next to her comforted. Maybe the results are good. Su Jihuan's smile was very stiff. Do you think we can get 7th or 8th place? In Su Jihuan's opinion, they should be burning incense and praying that Bei Yunj could get half the written test points by answering the questions carelessly. She didn't want anything else. Bei Yunj. 9th place, Team Chui Changyi, assessment score 59. 3. Elder Crow said loudly. Everyone was in an uproar. This test was too strict. 9th place didn't even have a passing score? At this moment, only Su Jihuan and the other two's expressions changed. They looked disappointed. They didn't even get 9th place? Maybe our ranking is higher. Bei Yunj continued to comfort. But the next moment. 8th place, Sangha Yuanhui team, assessment score 64. Su Jihuan and the other two. Was this father the world's toxic healer? Wang Huiying, who was observing this scene from the side, had a hint of ridicule in her eyes. The corners of her mouth unconsciously curled up, and her heart was completely at ease. These idiots were finally out. Wang Huiying raised her head, waiting for Elder Crow to call her name. She didn't want to. When the 2nd place was announced, Old Crow's smile froze. He suspected that his eyes were playing tricks on him. After a while he said, "This year we didn't get 2nd place." No 2nd place? What does that mean? The contestant couldn't help but ask. 2 first-place finishers. Old Crow couldn't help but become excited after seeing the results of the 2 teams. What? 2 first places? The contestants were in an uproar, and Wang Huiying stood up abruptly, her pupils shrinking. How was this possible? How could there be 2 first places? First place, Wang Huiying's team. Elder Crow looked at everyone and announced the results that everyone wanted to know. Report summary 59, written test 32, total score 91. Everyone's mentality exploded. Damn, 91? Which team is so awesome that they can actually get the same score as Wang Huiying's team? End of chapter. Chapter 1100. It wasn't just the contestants. Even Patriarch sure was stunned. After so many years, he had never heard of anyone who could tie with Huiying for first place. Elder Crow continued to announce, first place Bei Yunj's team, report summary 51, written test 40, total score 91. Instantly the field exploded. Did I hear wrongly? What's going on? Someone got full marks for the written test. Damn, this team is so fierce. The written test is so difficult, but their team actually got full marks? Wang Huiying's team only got 32 points. I heard that their team didn't know there was a written test at the beginning and forced it in the last hour. In an instant, the field was silent. Their team completed nearly 300 questions in an hour? One had to know that they had been doing it for several days. Even Wang Huiying's team took a full 2 days. Su Jihuan and the others were originally gloomy, but when they heard their team being called, they were all dumbfounded. 91 points? And they actually got full marks for the written test? You got full marks for the written test and the computer test? Su Jihuan turned her head and asked with difficulty. Bei Yunj chewed on the biscuit stick and said slowly, "It wasn't difficult." Su Jihuan. Tang Yi. It wasn't that he didn't look at the written test questions later. If it were him, it would probably take him 4 to 5 days to do it alone. And the other teams also completed it together with their members. But Bei Yunj completed nearly 300 questions in less than an hour alone. Our team is actually first. Su Jihuan was stunned at first, then she was extremely excited. I'm not dreaming, am I? Bei Yunj glanced at her and smiled unconsciously. At first, she didn't expect Tang Yi and the others to overturn the finished product and change it. But Wang Huiying clenched her fists, her nails digging into her flesh. She stared at Bei Yunj and the others maliciously. How could this be? Their team didn't deserve to be in the same ranking as hers. After Wang Huiying came back to her senses, she immediately looked at Patriarch Shi, only to find that Patriarch Shi was also staring at Su Jihuan and the others. She gritted her teeth and a ruthless look flashed across her eyes. How's the matter? I asked you to investigate. Patriarch Shi was still a little suspicious. It's true. Also, I found out that there was a problem with their team's information. They found out about the competition an hour before the computer test ended. The tutor braced himself and said, "The person who answered the question is a girl who is not even 20 years old." Patriarch sure was in disbelief. Alone? Even Wang Huiying couldn't finish these questions in 2 days, but someone actually finished it in an hour. He had never heard of a laboratory or a physics research institute producing such a genius. Bei Yunj. I've done a background check. There's no such person in the industry. The tutor had never thought that there would be a day when a person who wasn't even 20 years old could beat Wang Huiying in physics. This world was too crazy. Patriarch sure took a long time to come back to his senses. What do you mean by unexpected news? The tutor was silent for a long time. It was Miss Wang. She specifically asked someone to inform their team on the last day. She probably wants Su Jihuan to be eliminated early. Patriarch sure's eyes darkened. The library. You're a family head. Why do you keep coming to the library? Oz frowned. Did you know that there was a student who got full marks in the second round of the written exam this year? Oz glanced at him coldly and mocked. A test subject got full marks and you're here to show off to me. End of chapter. Chapter 1101. It's not Wang Huiying. As soon as Patriarch sure finished speaking, Oz stopped reading. Isn't it quite scary? There's actually someone who's more talented than a genius in genetic experiments. Patriarch sure was relishing in it. How can humans create miracles if they want to compete with God? Oz asked sarcastically. Patriarch sure was speechless. This person must have been trained to change his expression, right? Patriarch sure continued. What I didn't expect was that the person who scored full marks in the written test was actually from a computer science background. As soon as he finished speaking, Oz lost his grip on the book and dropped it. Patriarch sure instinctively bent down to pick it up, but when he saw the content clearly, he asked in shock, "Isn't this what Nanny wrote in her book? Wasn't it burned long ago? When did you recover it?" Oz snatched it away. "Someone else restored it for me." With that said, his expression was uncertain as he asked slowly, "What's the name of the person who scored full marks in the written test?" Patriarch sure. Bei Yunj. The veins on the back of Oz's hand that was holding the book tightly were bulging, and he couldn't suppress his excitement. It was really her. Oz had seen with his own eyes how fast Bei Yunj was doing the questions. That scene made Oz's scalp tingle when he recalled it. If it was an ordinary person, it would be impossible for them to score full marks. I heard that she only took an hour to complete the written test. However, it might be a misunderstanding. Nandy couldn't have. Before Patriarch sure could finish, Oz interrupted him. It's indeed fake. It took at most 55 minutes. What? Patriarch sure thought of something else. Wait, how did you know? Oz pointed at the front desk next to him. She's using your lousy computer. If it wasn't for the slow computer, that girl would probably be even faster. You actually know that girl? Patriarch sure was even more shocked. Yes. I also said that as long as she agreed to be Miss Nanyi's disciple, I would help her get the position of the successor of Confederation 191. Oz didn't feel guilty at all. Patriarch sure. Question mark. How could you dare to say such a thing in front of me? But she didn't agree. It's very likely that Confederation 191 is getting worse and worse, and she doesn't like it. Oz's eyes were filled with disdain, as if Patriarch sure was dragging him down. Patriarch sure's face darkened. You. Anyway, Wang Huiying is not related to you by blood. Does it make a difference to you who inherits it? Oz said expressionlessly. Is Confederate Laboratory 191 something that can be casually handed over to outsiders? Patriarch sure glared at Oz and said in a deep voice. But a few minutes later, Master sure asked again. Bei Yunj has a few people in her family. Has she considered settling down in Continent K? When it comes to choosing a successor, I have to carefully consider it. That girl didn't agree to take over. You'd better not leak the news. Oz sneered. What do you mean by taking over? You. Before Patriarch sure could finish his sentence, Oz added. Oh right, don't let anyone tamper with this competition. This time, the bad girl is in the way. In the living room, The loud and ruthless slap caused the hearts of all the instructors present to tighten. Wang Huiying's head was thrown to one side, and her face was red and swollen. Trash. If Instructor Han didn't bet on the other team's points, do you think you would still be in first place today? Wang Hui's eyes were dark as he threw something at Wang Huiying's face. Take a good look. Do you have the right to get 59 points with your trashy results? End of chapter. Chapter 1102. Wang Huiying picked it up and looked at it. It was a comparison of her and Bai Yunji's results. Although Bai Yunji's team's results were slightly inexperienced in many areas, the key content was completely better than hers. Wang Huiying bit her lip. Her face was burning with pain, but it didn't affect her mood. Su Jihuan doesn't have the ability to beat me. I don't want to hear your explanation. I only want the results. Wang Hui's gaze was malicious. He sneered. Wang Huiying, you can't even compare to this kind of trash team. Do you still expect your name to go down in history? His words fell. Soon, Wang Hui's anger subsided slightly. He said again, Huiying, you disappoint me too much. Wang Huiying gritted her teeth. Su Jihuan, that group of trash, beat me this time just by luck. She took a deep breath, her eyes filled with stubbornness and cold pride. I underestimated them. Wang Huiying, this is the last time. You know what it means to be first this time. With that, Wang Hui left with a flick of his sleeves. When Xing Qi and the others arrived, they only saw Wang Huiying's eyes red and one side of her cheek red and swollen. Huiying, you what's wrong? Wang Huiying didn't speak. She just stood up slowly, her tone was cold and sarcastic. This time, I'm going to crush that group of trash Su Jihuan into the mud. Xing Qi and the others inexplicably didn't dare to look at Wang Huiying. This was the first time they saw Wang Huiying's gloomy face. The library. Bai Yunji had just reached the 6th floor when she was suddenly stopped by someone. Girl. Bai Yunji turned and saw Oz looking at her coldly. This gloomy image was very much like a big villain who killed people like flies. But in the next moment, Oz just threw a cushion to her. Don't dirty the cushion. Bai Yunji's lips curved. Thank you, old master. Hearing this, Oz didn't leave like before. Instead, he was silent for a moment and said, You won. I can give you the information. But you really don't want to be the successor of 191? Even if 191 lost, there's still no research institute that can compare to 191. Bai Yunji was unmoved. Seeing this, Oz's eyebrows twitched and he threw another book at her. Bai Yunji flipped through the contents. This was even more valuable than the scientific data and information left behind by Shernani. The author's name was J.H. Do you like this guy's book? Oz asked tentatively. Bai Yunji's eyebrows twitched. He didn't expect Confederation 191 to have such a high standard of books. Oz knew Bai Yunji would like it. After all, very few people knew that the number one genius of Confederation 191 wasn't Shernani, but this foreign student. You sold it to me? Bai Yunji asked. Oz almost interrupted this guy's train of thought. If you get first place in the competition, I will give you all of this person's books. Bai Yunji's eyes flickered with a dark light. A moment later, she returned the book to Oz. I'm sorry. I promised my master that I wouldn't join Confederation 191. Oz also began to hate this girl's cleverness. He was even angered by her cerebral palsy master to the point that his heart ached. Which dog was this girl's master? He actually didn't let his disciple join Confederation 191? The finals were coming. After Su Jihuan came back from drawing lots, Tang Yi and the others looked at the theme and report order, and almost stopped breathing. There were a total of 10 themes and 9 teams to choose from. Chapter 1103. Brother Yi, I think I've used up all my bad luck for a year. Tang Yi was speechless. Congratulations. The corners of Du Chaoya's mouth twitched. Why don't we get Bai Yunji to do it? In the previous round, Wang Huiying's team probably didn't use their full strength. But now that the same theme was presented, wasn't this giving Wang Huiying and the rest a chance to torture them? But I've already asked Gu'er to sleep. She didn't seem to have rested yesterday. Su Jihuan said weakly. Let's do it. We can't leave everything to our companions. After Tang Yi finished speaking, a lazy laugh suddenly rang out behind him. But we're a team too. Tang Yi and the rest looked over instinctively. Su Jihuan jumped for joy. Yunj. Bei Yunj slowly placed the paper bag on the table. I brought you food. Thank you, Father Pei. Su Jihuan and Du Chaoya had already reached out to snatch it. What theme did you draw? Bei Yunj asked. After Tang Yi briefly explained, he was silent for a moment. Why don't you let us do it first this time? When it's about time, you can help us modify it. Bei Yunj thought for a moment. Okay. For a few days, Tang Yi and the rest were still diligently analyzing the data, and tutors often came to guide them. However, Tang Yi was careful and did not tell the tutor everything about the team's report. Soon, the tutor, who had just left Tang Yi's place, went to Wang Huiying's laboratory. Elder Ma, how's their progress? Wang Huiying asked. Elder Ma shook his head. That kid Tang Yi is very meticulous. He didn't tell me their content. Wang Huiying's eyes darkened and her expression was mocking. It's all right, Elder Ma. You can go back. Okay, Mississippi. After Elder Ma left, Wang Huiying suddenly said, Tang Fengyin, Tang Yi is from your Tang family, right? Is your Tang family planning to go against our Shi family? Tang Fengyin's usual gentle smile froze. Miss Wang, he's just an illegitimate son of a branch family. But he's still a member of your Tang family. Wang Huiying observed the experiment as she recorded the data. She only smiled generously. I still hope that you can do it. Otherwise, my father will doubt the sincerity of the Tang family's alliance. Tang Fengyin was silent. I understand, Miss Wang. A few days before the finals, the rain continued to fall. Bei Yunj had just thrown the umbrella into the bucket and was about to enter the library when someone called her from behind. Bei Yunj raised her eyebrows. Miss Wang seems to be quite free. Wang Huiying held the umbrella and chuckled in the rain. Miss Pei, I'm here to make a deal with you. As long as you can destroy Su Jihuan's report, I can let you enter Confederation 191 and get benefits that you can't even imagine. When Bei Yunj heard this, she curled her lips with great interest. Why? Can't the Su family afford me this? Wang Huiying's smile faded, and her eyes became gloomy. Bei Yunj, even if you participate in the competition, you won't be able to beat me. Then what is Miss Wang afraid of? Bei Yunj smiled unhurriedly. Wang Huiying clenched her fists and sneered at Bei Yunj. Bei Yunj, you'll regret this. With that, Wang Huiying left. Bei Yunj was deep in thought. Before entering the library, she reminded Tang Yi and the others to protect the information and their own safety. But what was hard to believe was that Wang Huiying dared to make a move outside the laboratory building one day before the finals. Chapter 1104. At the hospital, Bei Yunj arrived very quickly, but when the elevator bell rang, he didn't expect Suyu to come out of the opposite elevator. His hair was still messy. Bei Yunj didn't look at him anymore. He had just left when Suyu followed closely behind. However, what Suyu didn't expect was that when he saw Su Jihuan crying until her eyes were red, he subconsciously opened his hand. However, what he expected was not Su Jihuan throwing herself into his arms like before. Instead, Su Jihuan didn't even look at him. She ran over and hugged Bei Yunj. Yunj, brother, you lost a lot of blood. Su Jihuan's tears fell. Bei Yunj instinctively wanted to push her away, but seeing that Su Jihuan was crying sadly, he could only move his eyelids and slowly take out a tissue to wipe her tears. Old Du, what's wrong with Tang Yi? Du Chaoya said. The doctor said that he lost too much blood and his body is covered in injuries. He might have to lie in bed for a few months. It must be Wang Huiying and the rest. Without anyone's instructions, who can enter Confederation 191? Su Jihuan gritted her teeth in anger. Bei Yunj was silent for a moment. Old Du, go to the laboratory and get the information first. Jihuan and I will guard here. Okay. Du Chaoya was actually a little worried about the competition. After all, Tang Yi was the one who did the final work. After Du Chaoya left, only then did Su Jihuan realize that Suyu was here. Why are you here? Su Jihuan was puzzled from the bottom of her heart. So you didn't expect that he had sent Su Jihuan to the Confederation 191 training camp because he wanted Su Jihuan to stop clinging to him for a few days. But now Su Jihuan seemed to have changed into a different person. She treated him as if he didn't exist and even questioned him like this. I heard that you were in the hospital. Su Yu pursed his lips and couldn't help but look at Bai Yunj. Bai Yunj raised an eyebrow at him. Su Yu was speechless. Yet, this person had someone protecting her. Then you can go back. I have to wait for Brother Yi to wake up. Su Jihuan was still a little overwhelmed. Her mind was filled with Tang Ye's blood. Su Yu was inexplicably frustrated. After glancing at Su Jihuan, he said coldly, "Up." With that said, Su Yu left. Only Bai Yunj looked at his back with interest. What kind of attitude is that? I'm not afraid that he'll be unhappy if he waits for too long. Just as Su Jihuan finished speaking, Du Chaoya called. He told them that all the data in the laboratory had been destroyed. As for the backup in his hands, he probably wouldn't be able to finish editing it in one night. Hearing this, Su Jihuan was so angry that her entire body was trembling. She wanted to fight Wang Huiying to the death. Is Wang Huiying sick? A cold look flashed across Bai Yunj's beautiful eyes, and she let out a long laugh. However, it was still hair-raising. When Du Chaoya came back, Bai Yunj asked him to bring her computer. Dawn. Bai Yunj glanced at the sleepy Du Chaoya and Su Jihuan, and turned on her computer again. Inside the folder was the content she had written some time ago. Coincidentally, it was also the theme of the competition. After a quick glance, she licked her lips and sneered softly. Then she slowly deleted the last signature. She signed it again. Group 9 Bai Yunj team. The next day. It was Bai Yunj's first time sleeping in the hospital corridor. Her eyes were filled with impatience and irritation, especially after the scream. But Su Jihuan didn't know at all. I actually fell asleep. I haven't finished editing the manuscript yet. How did I fall asleep? The nurse next to them looked at the three good-looking people and felt very strange. There's still an empty ward. Why are you sleeping on the bench? The young ladies and young masters. Chapter 1105. None of them had any common sense. Brother Yi doesn't seem to be awake yet. Su Jihuan leaned against the door of the intensive care unit. After watching for a while, her eyes dimmed. Tang Yi will be fine. Let's think about the competition first. Du Chaoya glanced at Tang Yi in the ward and massaged his temples. Why don't I give a speech? After all, Bai Yunj had not participated in the theme this time. Du Chaoya did not plan to let a girl like Su Jihuan bear such a responsibility. But you don't know the entire framework. Su Jihuan bit her lip. Why don't? I'll go. Suddenly, a voice sounded from the side, attracting Su Jihuan and Du Chaoya's attention. Yunj, what's in there? Su Jihuan looked at her USB flash drive. She remembered that Bai Yunj did not copy their documents. I wrote it last month for fun, and happened to run into the topic. Bai Yunj had already copied the information into the USB flash drive. His index finger twirled the USB flash drive string lazily, his posture casual. Su Jihuan was speechless. She really didn't dare to believe his careless appearance. Daddy Pei, are you sure you want to use your own? Su Jihuan held Bai Yunj's hand tightly, and wanted to struggle. I can't remember your content either. Pei Yunj said slowly without blushing or skipping a beat. At the venue of the finals, what no one expected was that among the judges today, the Shi family's head and the successor of 191, Wang Hui, would actually be there. However, Wang Hui's expression did not look too good. It was obvious that he did not expect the Shi family's head to be a judge. However, at this moment, what was more eye-catching was that Bai Yunj and the other two were late. In the venue, only Wang Huiying's eyes were filled with mockery as she looked at the three late people. She thought that these three people would not dare to come. However, it was even better that they were here. Let the competition begin. With that said, the host invited the first team to present their results. Under the Shi family's head scrutiny, almost none of the other judges dared to give a high score. This made the scalps of the others turn numb. After a few contestants, no one got a high score. They all hovered between 70 and 80 points. Until Wang Huiying appeared. Su Jihuan and Du Chaoya looked at the PowerPoint behind Wang Huiying and felt an inexplicable sense of familiarity. She kept feeling that there were a few core points that were especially similar to what Tang Yi had written. However, not long after, the contents of the next slide made Su Jihuan and Du Chaoya's faces turn black. This slide was their team's PowerPoint, and Wang Huiying and the others had used it exactly as it was. What does Wang Huiying mean? Plagiarizing our content in broad daylight. Su Jihuan's anger reached its peak. At this moment, Wang Huiying smiled at Bei Yunj and the others. She obviously knew that Bei Yunj and the others had no evidence. And in Confederate 191, who would dare to touch her? Bei Yunj glanced at him unhurriedly, not saying a word the whole time, until Wang Huiying finished. The judges gave him the highest score, 84. Next, Bei Yunj's team. Let's welcome Tang Yi to the stage. As soon as the host finished speaking, Bei Yunj stood up and said, I'm sorry. My partner can't come to the competition, so I'll take her place at the last minute. Aren't you taking our competition too seriously? Wang Hui suddenly said sternly. Who knew? Bei Yunj glanced at him and sneered. Does Mr. Wang need to shout at me for the Sher family's competition? As soon as he finished speaking, the scene froze for a long time. This was the first person who dared to point out Wang Hui's weakness. He was a ruthless person. P.S. I don't have any ideas, so I wrote a little slowly. I'll write more today. I'll continue tonight. Chapter 1106. Only Su Jihuan suspected that Bei Yunj had just woken up and wasn't in a good mood, but as expected, Wang Hui's face darkened completely. However, Bei Yunj's tone was casual, and her terrifying aura was hard to ignore. Her slender and beautiful hands slowly brushed through her long, curly black hair. She smiled calmly, but there was no warmth in her voice. Okay, it's not time to settle the score yet. Wang Hui was about to say something when he suddenly met Bei Yunj's curved eyes. Her beautiful eyes seemed to be smiling but not smiling, cold and terrifying. It made people shudder. Wang Hui's heart inexplicably skipped a beat. He was actually intimidated by this little girl. Patriarch Sher was also very surprised when he saw this scene. He had only seen Bei Yunj briefly before, and only thought that this little girl was too eye-catching. But now he realized that she controlled the entire scene. Bei Yunj didn't look at the slides behind her. She just licked her lips and said in a lazy voice, Hello everyone, I'm Bei Yunj. This report will be done by me and 3 other team members. As soon as she finished speaking, the slides behind Bei Yunj began to show the main topic. When the others saw the contents of the slides behind Bei Yunj, their expressions changed. The 10th topic was undoubtedly the most difficult of the 10 topics. Even Wang Huiying was very cautious in order to win this competition. She didn't dare to take the risk of choosing a deeper topic. However, the slides behind Bei Yunj started with a deeper topic. It was on a completely different level from the other contestants. If they were told that Bei Yunj's report was written by the top researchers of Confederation 191, they would probably believe it. What kind of monsters were the members of this team? Crouching tigers and hidden dragons? Not only did the contestants have a mental breakdown, but even the judges' faces stiffened after hearing Bei Yunj's smooth speech. Was she here to participate in the training camp competition? This level of content was already not something they could comment on. For some reason, they felt like they had offended a big shot in the industry. The judges' scalps went numb, and they didn't dare to give this score. Du Chaoya and Su Jihuan were also stunned. Su Jihuan's breathing stagnated. She wrote this for fun? Du Chaoya. Meanwhile, the onlookers who weren't afraid of blowing up the matter were still discussing. F***CK, what kind of big shot is this Group 9 doing? Slapping the opposing genius group's face round after round? If I were Wang Huiying, I would be so angry that I would vomit blood. One of them, a fan of Bei Yunj, couldn't help but feel his blood boil. Master Pei, how is this a slap in the face? This is clearly a strafing shot. Other than her, no one else survived at this very moment. As expected, Wang Huiying's face was ashen, and the hatred in her eyes was almost surging out. Where did Bei Yunj's report come from? Or was Bei Yunj playing with her on purpose? Huiying, what should we do? Tang Fingyin's face was also pale, and he was already regretting it. If he hadn't found someone to injure Tang Yi, he wouldn't have let Bai Yunj go on stage. Wang Huiying pursed her lips and turned her head to see the head of the Shi family looking at Bai Yunj with sparkling eyes. He couldn't suppress his excitement. For some reason, she panicked and had a bad feeling. My report ends here. Thank you, everyone. As soon as Bai Yunj finished speaking, the judges felt uncomfortable no matter how they sat. They didn't know how to give this score. P.S. I can't take it anymore. I'm too sleepy. I'll wake up early tomorrow to finish these 3 chapters. Good night, everyone. End of chapter. Chapter 1107. The judges stared at each other in a deadlock. They were all egging each other on to be the first to give Bai Yunj a score. At this moment, Master Shi had just calmed down. He couldn't help but frown and ask, "What are you all waiting for?" After a long while, one of the judges said helplessly, "Master Shi, this score, how are we going to give her a score?" Someone immediately answered, "Actually, I heard about this topic at our nation's Physics Research Institute last time. But in terms of the content of the report, it's not as deep and accurate as this contestant. There were many physicists in our nation. They were even more skilled than the core members of Confederation 191. To be able to suppress the report of our nation's top physics research institute, this score was not something they could give her." Master Shi was speechless. No one had expected this scene. A rookie training camp could actually have such a godly contestant. Soon after the judges finished their discussion, everyone saw Master Shi walk in front of Bai Yunj. "Miss Pei's talent is outstanding. She's even more outstanding than my most outstanding daughter." Instantly, the contestants were in an uproar. Wasn't Master Shi talking about Shernani? Many people subconsciously looked at Wang Huiying. After all, Wang Huiying had been calling herself Little Shernani for so many years, but Master Shi said this in front of so many people. Wasn't this a slap to Wang Huiying's face? Sure enough, Wang Huiying's face was as black as a pot. "Clan head Shi, why didn't you report your points?" Only Su Jihuan asked with concern. Master Shi laughed and said again, "The judges here probably don't have the ability to give Miss Pei a score like this. But first place is undeserved. Ashamed." Suddenly, Wang Hui's gloomy voice interrupted Master Shi's words. "If Miss Pei is this good, why would she participate in this kind of competition?" Wang Hui sneered. "I have reason to suspect that Bai Yunj is openly cheating." Wang Hui. Master Shi's expression changed. He didn't expect Wang Hui to be so impatient. But Wang Hui continued in a gloomy tone. "Dad, this person's motive is unclear. We should remove her name from the list and kick her out of this competition." Wang Hui had been working under Family Head Shi for a long time, so he could more or less guess what Family Head Shi's motive was. Comparing Shernani to Bai Yunj, it was very likely that he wanted to let Bai Yunj, an outsider, take away his position. He would never allow such a thing to happen. "Hurry up and call someone over. Chase this person out," Wang Hui said coldly. But in the next moment, Oz's voice sounded coldly. "Drive them out? What right do you have to make decisions for Confederation 191? When Wang Hui saw Oz walking over, he sneered. "So it's you. You're trying to trip me up behind my back." Oz sneered. "You're just someone who eats soft rice. Do you still need me to worry about you? I'm here today because this girl is the successor that I've chosen for Miss Nan Yi. In your dreams." Wang Hui was furious, but then he sneered. "Oz, I really didn't expect you to cheat with other players in order to pull me down. But you have to remember that I gave you face. But since you still don't understand who's in charge here, then I'll chase you and Bai Yunj out today." Hearing this, before Wang Huiying had time to sneer, a voice suddenly sounded from outside the door. End of chapter. Chapter 1108. Who's tired of living now? How dare you touch my disciple? Everyone turned around and suddenly saw an old man in a neat suit. Although his expression was calm, there was a majestic look in his eyes. Bai Yunj was quite surprised. He didn't expect Nancy to come here. Who is this old man? The contestants below the stage were all discussing. No one knew him. But the old members of Confederation 191 were shocked. Even their voices were filled with disbelief. Teacher Nancy. It's Mr. Nancy? Most of the contestants were still young and didn't know what the word Nancy meant in the scientific research circle. But Confederation 191 had witnessed with their own eyes how many achievements Nancy had left in this era. At this moment, Oz's hoarse voice was even more unsettled. His expression was distorted. Bei Yunj is your disciple? Nancy turned and looked at Oz for a while before recognizing him. Yes, you're Oz. He didn't know when Oz's face was disfigured, and the way Oz and Patriarch sure looked at Nancy was as if they couldn't wait to fight him on the spot. They were so angry that their teeth itched. This dog was really shameless. He actually dared to come to Confederation 191. Are you worthy of stepping into our Confederation 191? Patriarch Sher's tone was angry. When Nancy heard this, he immediately sneered and retorted. Patriarch Sher loves his son-in-law better than his daughter. Can't wait to fight for his son-in-law? You're slandering me. Patriarch Sher was so angry that he almost fainted. He pointed at Nancy and gritted his teeth. You shameless thing. You've done so much evil, yet you're still blaming me. Bei Yunj looked at this scene and couldn't help but twitch his eyelids. Master. As soon as he finished speaking, Nancy didn't continue to scold Patriarch Sher. Bei Yunj thought for a moment and said slowly, Patriarch Sher, I understand that you have grudges with the previous generation. If you really hate my master that much, you can remove me from this first place. I also hope that 191, as the largest laboratory in Continent K, will treat my companions fairly. Hearing this, Su Jihuan and the other two couldn't help but look at Bei Yunj. If it weren't for Bei Yunj, how could they have gotten first place? But before they could say anything, Oz said, Little girl, the Confederacy 191 only has a problem with him. They have no problem with you. Nancy slowly turned to look at Bei Yunj. Clearly he didn't understand why the old bastards of Confederate 191 had such a different attitude towards his disciple. However, suddenly, Wang Hui's gloomy voice rang out. No wonder Bei Yunj's team was able to submit such a report. It seems that even after so many years, Mr. Nancy still can't forget Confederate 191. Do you think everyone is like you? Someone who likes to live off women? Nancy sneered. She was merciless in attacking her enemy. As expected, Wang Hui's face darkened. After all, with such a peerless master like me, it's hard for my disciple to fail even if he doesn't want to. Nancy was still sighing with emotion, but her heart was blooming with joy. Who would have thought that his disciple would be able to slap Wang Hui's face? Bei Yunj. But in the next moment. However, Patriarch Sher hurriedly ignored him and walked to Bei Yunj's side. Yunj, why don't you consider removing your master-disciple relationship with that old thing? Our Confederacy 191 has high hopes for you. Patriarch Sher was just short of saying, What do you think of my position? Bei Yunj was speechless. Sher Hongsen, what do you mean? Are you trying to steal my disciple in front of me? Nancy said with a shocked and angry expression. End of chapter. That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.